For those of you who come with curiosities, with questions, heed the warning, you should beware. For those of you who come in search of fright and scares, fear not, for there are plenty to share. Now as the feeling trickles down your spine, and your heart begins to race and your mind resides, close your eyes, step forth, and embrace the chill, as the wind dies down and the air grows still. Now you find yourself at the gate, and you realize there's no escape. Once you've crossed the domain, you found yourself playing a creeper's game. Let yourself sink, the time is just right, for there's a lesson to learn in Ghoul School tonight. Welcome to Ghoul School, creepers. Welcome all.
It's here, RJ.
What?
It's here.
What is?
Halloween.
Ooh, ah.
And you know what else?
What?
It's only one more day, and then Creeptober is over.
Well, I mean, Creeptober is never really over if you keep it in your heart.
It never dies.
It never dies.
Just like Jesus.
Well, he did die, Jarrett.
Well,
but he
did he?
He rose again. Did you not take that in school?
Not in my school, because I'm not at the Ghoul School.
Ooh, girl, look what you did, man. You spun it back.
Nice. I did it.
Good job, buddy. Are you feeling spooky today?
No.
Why not?
Because I know that we're going to be recording for like 4 hours. It's going to happen.
Not if we don't want to.
It's hanging over me. Hey, the fans demand it.
Well, I mean, we can. I'll give you a solid 3, and then after that, I'll probably just leave, and I can bring in the other co-host.
The cat.
Yeah.
Winnie.
Yeah, she's a fan of the show. Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't say fan, but like, I mean, she puts up with it, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, how about that? Lots of movies, I guess. Hey.
Lots of movies.
How has your October been?
Fast. I can't believe it's like
fast and loose.
It's fast and loose.
Wow.
Just like the rest of my body.
Fast and loose?
No.
I hope not, because like if you want to be regular, you do you know? Do you know?
Do you know? Do you know about Blood Harvest, RJ?
What? I know Joe Bob did Blood Harvest. Is that what you're leading off with here?
Yeah.
Oh, you should have watched the Joe Bob Blood Harvest, my man.
Well, you know, RJ, it's not available on Shudder.
Those sons of bitches.
They yanked it. It disappeared at the beginning of the month. But
they just took it off totally?
Well, if you go to your desktop version of Shudder, it appears as an option. But you go to click on it, and it says unavailable. And then you go to your app, and it's not even there.
The fuck is this horse shit?
Yeah, it's horse shit. It's all horse shit.
I'm investigating, but you can tell me about it because it looks cool.
Yeah. Well,
Blood Harvest.
Let's not go crazy here, throwing around these cools. So Blood Harvest, RJ. This is a movie. It came to my attention. Vinegar Syndrome released this on Blu-ray a while ago, and it stars the musical sensation Tiny Tim. Are you familiar with Tiny Tim?
From A Christmas Carol?
Different. Same, but different.
No, I'm not familiar with him, but I have some earth-shattering news on my desktop. Week 9 Blood Harvest Joe Bob plays.
Oh, but it's the Joe Bob version.
Yeah. What did you think I said?
But it's not like just the movie without him.
No, it's got the Joe Bob stuff in it.
Oh,
but I mean,
weird.
I like the Joe Bob stuff.
Okay. Well, it's yeah, I just wanted to, I didn't even know that was part of it. I just was like annoyed that the movie itself wasn't there. So
I follow.
I found it other ways and checked it out. So yeah, Tiny Tim. You did you watch Insidious?
Yes.
Do you remember?
believe so.
Do you remember? There's like that music that's used. The
Oh.
tiptoe through the garden. Yeah.
To the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that song.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Tiny Tim.
Okay.
He was this like very
Yeah.
odd-looking man who could hit this incredible falsetto, and he always came off as a very innocent sort, despite his appearance. So in this, he plays a clown. It's like something like it kind of plays like a horror movie version of Mice of Men. He's the Lenny. He's like the simpleton brother who's very sad, and so he tries to cheer himself up by dressing like a clown, but it doesn't work. So he's always sad. And this girl and her boyfriend, they move back home to his house on the farm to reclaim it. And there's been doings in the town. People have been hanging cats as a common theme, apparently, in horror movies. And Tiny Tim wanders around in clown makeup, and you're like, oh, well, this is your red herring for tonight. And as the movie goes on, you're just like, well, it's the brother, right? He's the one who's like hanging people upside down and then slitting their throats. And it takes, 80 minutes to get to that. And it's like, yes, it is. That's the movie.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, that's all. I like that Tiny Tim. I kind of wish it was like all Tiny Tim all the time doing stuff. I'd be down with him just being a killer, killing people, killing fools, but we don't live in that world. This movie I watched a full 2 weeks ago, and it is very foggy for me otherwise. But I'm just here to register my disappointment.
That's fine. There's no better platform than an online medium of two guys talking.
An exchange.
An exchange of sorts.
Of communication.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this is all about.
But I'm telling you, RJ, Blood Harvest is a masterpiece compared to the film I followed it up with.
What would that be?
A little movie called Witchcraft.
Okay.
So
sounds cool.
There's 14 installments of Witchcraft.
Why?
I don't know. I guess because people kept renting them. Because people were tricked. They thinking oh, part 666. This is going to be good. And people plunked down their money because you never knew what you were going to get with these witchcraft movies. But it has inauspicious beginnings here with Witchcraft. It is the most phoned-in Rosemary's Baby style storyline involving a young couple who are very old, but very young couple. They just had a baby. They have an annoying friend who wants to see the baby. And they move in with the husband's mother, so mother-in-law, and of course, surprise, they're Satanists, and they're there to bring in this Antichrist baby and raise that baby right. And it is just the most boring soap opera style action you've ever seen. It's unbelievable that someone would have made this, and then someone's like, hey, let's do a part 2 where she's older. And then I kept reading some more of the synopses of the subsequent installments, and oh man, it's just they don't even have anything to do with any of the other movies. They're just excuses for softcore sensuality.
Ooh.
Now we're talking RJ speed.
Yeah, now you've peaked.
Yeah.
Literally.
Peaked.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
It's a joke. It's a play on words, Jarrett. I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a bummer that you're watching bad movies. But that's what happens when you watch 800 movies a year.
Yeah. There's bound to be some stinkers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of stinkers, Jer.
Yeah. And I got another one for you too, because this is it's been a rough couple weeks, I guess.
Okay. What else you got other than Witchcraft?
Well, yeah, Witchcraft. I did learn though not to go any further, and I'm glad I didn't buy some box set that I'm sure Vinegar Syndrome or Severin will come along with and be like, guys, Witchcraft is just that great. You should pick it up on Blu-ray, all 14 installments for $200. And some people will be like, oh man, I better buy it before it's out of print. And then they bought it and they got your money, and that's what it's all about. It's like those Amityville movies they just put out.
Any of those fucking movies. There's so many that we've watched in the last like month. Not even Creeptober, just other things. It's like, ugh. It's like, oh, it's a hidden gem, guys. It's like, no, it's not. This movie sucks.
well, I guess
you know what I mean?
Well, we'll find out what you're talking about. I'll throw out one more. Another weak sister of a film.
Okay.
Called Scary Movie.
Like the Wayans Brothers Scary Movie?
No, this is from like probably 7 years earlier.
Was it a comedy?
No. It stars Saul from Deadwood, which you wouldn't know anything about because you hate Deadwood.
Sure.
And this guy, he's scared of things. He's really scared.
Kind of things?
Haunted houses.
Okay.
He's at the carnival and he's afraid to go into the haunted house. And this B plot that's going on is that there's an escaped maniac on the loose.
Same guy or what?
Nope, different person. But he gets wind of this and he starts thinking that maniac is in the haunted house.
Spooky.
No. There's a lot of standing around outside of the haunted house at this carnival, discussing about going in. And there's a lot of build up and people kind of being mean to him, and they're trying to like his friend is trying to hook him up with this woman completely out of his league. Okay. And you're supposed to believe this is a possibility, but it's like, no, this isn't funny. This is just happening because this is who was available to make your movie at the time. So eventually he goes into the haunted house and you're kind of being led to believe that the maniac could be in the haunted house, but then it turns out he's not. And
where is he?
He's elsewhere.
Inside all of us?
He's the viewer. He's the audience.
Okay.
And and so real people start getting hurt because this guy, this numpty, he thinks that they're the killers or something, and he's trying to do like this Bruce Campbell Evil Dead kind of shtick, and like he's all bulgy eyed, and he's even kind of wearing the like ash clothes, but it does not feel at all like Evil Dead. It's just like this weird like maybe indie reference that they thought, we love those movies so much, let's dip the hat, let's give it some fan service. It's just I don't understand. So not a great start for me here for my viewing. RJ,
yo,
how's your beginnings going?
I mean, I've been hot and cold pretty much the whole month, Jer.
Yeah,
pretty much the whole month, and I mean that's what happens for a few reasons. Later on, like when I get to the end, 4 hours from now, it's because I'm trying to clean up all these shit movies I borrowed from you like 18 years ago.
Yeah, the movies that I'm like, RJ, I don't think you're going to like this.
Yeah, but so some of them, I'm catching on wind of that. So I'm just going to give some of these back unwatched because it's like, I don't know. I had a heck of a night last night, Jared. I'll tell you about that later.
Okay. That's a foreshadowing.
Yeah, you could call it that. You could call it a number of things. I'm digging deep here. This is over 2 weeks ago, but I watched Poltergeist 3.
There you go. Some Gary Sherman. Some mirrors.
Gary Sherman. So I don't know about this dude. Like Dead and Buried, I think is okay, and Raw Meat isn't good. But I hear Vice Squad is okay. That's that thing that you like with Wings Hauser, right? Vice Squad?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Gary Sherman. So Poltergeist, Jared. What do you know about Tom Skerritt?
I know he's the star of Picket Fences.
Sure.
And he was.
Sure he is.
I know that he's dreamy. If you're a mom in that Shoes video from like YouTube fame ages ago.
Is that the one where he's naked and doing stuff?
No, he's just a photograph on the wall.
Oh, I mean, who doesn't have a Tom Skerritt on the wall? Anyways, Poltergeist 3. So I guess it's the same family, but they've all been recast?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then now they live in a high-rise in like a big apartment condo, which Tom Skerritt is also the manager of for some reason. And then Carol Ann Jarrett, she's still getting haunted. She goes to the school. Everyone calls her Spooky Carol Ann. Carol Ann. And some psychologist, Carol Ann, some psychologist is a real piece of shit. And he's like, hey, Carol Ann, if there's really ghosts, what about this? Ooh, and he tries to scare her a lot. but then he does wake up a ghost, Jared. It's a really old man who washes the windows of the apartment building, I think. And then there's all these mirrors and things. And then the old man is actually really funny because it's always an old man face on like little kids. And I actually kind of like that. I thought that was pretty fun. This movie's not good by any means, but I think there's interesting things about it.
Do you wonder why people love this movie so much, though? Because I do.
Is it just because Paul Thomas Anderson mentioned it once, that it had good cinematography?
No, it goes back. I think I didn't even know about that. That lots of people seem to like this, think that, like, highly of this. No one likes the second one. But they all like that third one. And on my first viewing of this a few years ago, but I'm also not that crazy about the first Poltergeist.
I think first Poltergeist is fine, but I mean, Tobe Hooper didn't direct it. That's for damn sure. The thing about this movie is, like, there are good parts. Like, the mirror stuff is actually not bad. It's well shot. Like, it looks pretty cool. Like, the way that they have the people on both sides of the mirrors, it's not bad. It looks okay. And I do like the mirror world, like people dump, like where it's a puddle but it has a reflection and they kind of go through it. One lady's body gets like this, like, rots instantly, and like another body comes out of it. That's also pretty cool. But other than like a handful of nice scenes, you have Poltergeist 3, which is the rest of the movie, and people just shouting Carol Ann, and you're just like, oh my god, shut up. You know, Jer? You know, like, shut up.
I should know, but this one, when you asked to borrow it, this one also came out of the to-go bin.
The to-go bin? Well, I can just throw it in the toilet now if that saves you some time.
That doesn't sound good for the environment.
Okay, well, Poltergeist 3, whatever. Do you want to hear about Clue or Deathbed, the bed that eats?
I don't understand Clue's inclusion.
Clue is a horror movie. Have you seen Clue?
I have not.
Okay, well, I won't talk about it then, but Clue is 100% a horror movie from the director of My Cousin Vinny, Jonathan Lynn. Clue's good, man. I watched Clue when I was a little kid. I thought it was good, but I like it. I have nostalgic value to it, and I think it's pretty fun. It's got a stacked deck for cast. Got Tim Curry, Christopher Lloyd, Martin Mull, your best buddy. They're all there. This thing, though, has like one of the weirdest last lines of any movie you'll ever see. I don't even want to spoil it, but like, it's, I guess it could be deemed in bad taste now because of equal rights.
Now
is well, I mean, when did Clue come out? 1985.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's about sexuality, Jarrett.
Uh-oh.
And then like the last line, it's pretty wild. It's like a free some what's his name? Martin McKean says something, or Mike McKean, whatever, and then it freeze frames on him, and you're just like, whoa, is that how this movie is gonna end? Wild. Clue's good. I think you should watch Clue. Or not.
Tell me about Deathbed.
Oh, you mean The Bed That Eats?
Yeah.
This is an interesting film, Jer.
Yeah.
There is this bed in like an old castle, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a guy who lives in a painting. He's trapped in this painting, and he's watching over the bed. And like every now and then you get drifters or people like picnicking, or a couple people just looking to bone down, and they're like, hey, here's a nice bed. So they'll get on the bed, and then the bed will just kind of suck them in, and then it'll be like, and then it just dissolves them. And it's pretty cool. It's like, I don't know what the camera is. Like the camera was in like a huge thing of pop or something, and they would like drop stuff in and it would fizz out.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. That's the best way I could describe it. I don't know if you know what it actually is.
No, I don't want to know. I don't want the mystery to die.
To die? Yeah. But those scenes, like so when things fall into the bed, that's actually really cool.
And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of those shots.
There's a lot of those shots. I mean, they could have, I think if they had more money to play around with.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like one of those shots where like they throw meat into like an aquarium filled with piranhas. Yeah. But there's no piranhas. It's just like, oh, here's like a thing that looks like a hand, and it's being dropped, and it's like very murky, and then it just fizzes up, and you're like, oh, it's the digestive fluids of the bed's mattress, like stomach,
whatever the bed demon is.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty funny. Like at one point, some guy puts a bucket of chicken on the bed.
Yes.
And then the bucket goes in and it eats the chicken, and the bucket comes back out. Yeah. And you're like, oh, like the bed knows how to differentiate between chicken and like cardboard. You wouldn't think it would care, but
only wants flesh.
Just wants flesh, man. So you see a lot of people get eaten, and that's pretty cool. And then you do see a little backstory on the bed. And it's pretty comical because it's like spinning newspaper ads where it's like entire town disappeared, and it's like bed number one suspect, and you're like what?
I don't know how that happened. Was everyone in town just like go, well, I better sit on it too and see what happened to everybody, and then they go in?
Well, I think it was like, now I might be connecting dots that don't exist right now, but I think it was maybe the bed was part of like a hotel or something. But it was a small town. But there was definitely one paper where it was like mayor suspects hotel bed or something, and then the next paper is like mayor missing, and you're just like, okay, like I don't know, like it's fun, it's goofy, I don't mind it, like that part of it. I mean, this movie's not bad, like for what it is. If you're gonna put on a movie called Deathbed, the bed that eats, I think you got to be coming in ready to watch a bed eat some people.
Right.
And it's got some nice images later. There's like some fires and stuff like that. It looks pretty cool. Looks pretty cool. So, I don't know if you have anything to add about Deathbed, the bed that eats.
I remember, I think when I watched it, I don't know how good a copy I had. And I was like, this movie's horrible. And I then acquired it on Blu-ray for a movie that I thought was horrible. I bought. And I still need to rewatch it. So... maybe whenever I get that back, I guess I could make that happen. See if it. I mean, I gotta tag it and like give it a second look now that I realize I'm a big fan of killer inanimate objects.
Well, see, there you go, and see that's why I'm watching all these movies so I can get them back. I actually put a huge dent in your movies. I'm only by the end of the week, I'll probably only have like 10 or 15 left.
Not too bad.
Which, I mean, that's still a lot of movies, but people here might not realize that's compared to like 80. Maybe not that many, but many. Quite a few.
Yeah.
So you want to rattle off for a while?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So the next one up for me, it goes by Reincarnation of Isabel on Letterboxd, but the Redemption Films Blu-ray calls this movie Black Magic Rites. And this movie, holy shit.
Good.
This movie, now, is it a good movie? No. Is it like nonstop, just like crazy visuals? Is it like perhaps like this like perfect encapsulation of like wild Italian cinema with about like satanic cults and like weirdo people in castles doing things that don't make any sense? And it's like, you're never ever bored, and they're trying to bring back this like death goddess named Isabel who died like hundreds of years ago, and everybody that's involved is reincarnated from when she initially died, and she just stands around waiting to be brought back. Yes, it's all these things. This movie is just it's a favorite of mine right now. Like, because I was just like but it's like it's not good though. It's like it's absolutely not like a very good movie. But
yeah, I follow.
But it sticks with you because I was like the whole time for 90 odd minutes. I never lost interest. I was just like, what's happening? And then it would just go to the next scene. You're just like, wait, they didn't really answer that. And then they kind of do later on, but it doesn't matter because that movie, it doesn't care. It doesn't care. It's not even trying to like placate anybody's sensibilities of logic. This is the sort of thing that guys on YouTube make videos about plot holes. If they watch this, their heads would explode.
Yeah, but I mean...
Because it doesn't matter. This movie's like, nah, it's all about the visuals, baby. And not in that contemporary way that a movie in 2019 would be like, it's about the visuals. It'd be like, ugh. It just would be unappealing. This, though, feels really authentic. And it didn't feel like they were trying to do that. They were just like throwing this mess of a movie together, and they came up with something kind of beautiful.
Is that how people describe our podcast, Jarrett?
Yeah.
Kind of beautiful, but a mess of things that came together for some reason.
Sure.
Oh, well, I mean, is this a hot recommend from you, Jared?
I would definitely say people should check this one out and see if it hits them the same way.
Okay. I mean, I've been known to hit things in a certain way, so maybe I'll try. Huh?
I followed this up with a movie that I've been trying to watch for a really long time called The Blood-Spattered Bride.
Okay.
I remember watching this like maybe the first 10 minutes, like 6-7 years ago, and just like, this is not what I signed up for. This Spanish movie that like is about this girl getting married to this guy, and as soon as they like get to their bridal room, this man with like nylon over his face like just pops out and rapes her. I'm like, what the like I didn't want this. And then I think I might have had it on while I was doing other things, and I looked up and suddenly they're in a room filled with birds, and I'm like, what is this shit? And I just stopped watching. So birds are cool. Watching it now, it makes more sense. It's a movie. Some people really, really like this. I'm fine with it. It kind of fits into the vampire mythos of like Carmela. I don't know if you're aware of that. It's like
Carmelo Anthony.
I don't know what that is. It's like, but vampire. There's the future Criterion movie we'll be talking about. It's like it's this one, I don't know, 18th century novel. It's kind of kicking around the same time, maybe 19th century, as like Bram Stoker's Dracula, early vampire literature. About like it's basically where your lesbian vampire stream comes out of. This hits on that, except it's Spanish rather than British or Europe or Italian or something like that. The movie starts off like the first half, you think it's about this woman who's just got married to this abusive man, and the whole time it's setting up this guy's a piece of shit, and you can't wait till he dies. You're just waiting for it. And then this like woman that looks a lot like this 200-year-old long dead woman appears, and it's like, mysterious. I wonder who she really is. And sure enough, that's how it plays out. But as soon as the bride gets turned, we're supposed to suddenly start having sympathy for the abusive husband, who's like a real creep. And because he's no, I don't think I don't think you do at all. But the movie seems very confused by this, because it's like, well, now she's the villain because now she's a vampire and she's killing people. You're like, yeah, but it's kind of only annoying because she hasn't killed her husband yet. But yeah, and then it kind of just, she starts taking out people. There's some nice live action of them just fucking gunning down a fox that's in a trap. That was real good. I was just like, good.
Oh, just like real life gunning down foxes, fox hunt style?
Yeah, just one that's in a trap, and then they just shoot it dead, and you're like, yeah, cool. And just sprinkled in there. That's nothing though, RJ. That's nothing. So this movie though, it ends on like just the most like bizarre, dark ending. I'm just spoiling movies left and right here.
Okay.
So
go for it.
So this movie ends. So our heroic abusive husband, he's tracked down his turned vampire wife with her like 200-year-old lover now. He finds them in a casket together, naked in an embrace. And then he puts the lid back on, and he just shoots the shit out of that casket, and blood just is pouring out of it. He's murdered them. And then this like young girl that's kind of like a niece, I guess, that's been hanging around. She had also become like a thrall, a servant, I guess, to Carmela. And she comes in, and she's just like kind of like concedes her own life and saying like, well, you might as well kill me too. And just like drops down to her knees, gives up her back of her neck, and he just guns her down. And but she makes a comment about how like they'll come back, and so he kills them, and then they don't cut. They keep going with the scene, and he like goes back to the casket lid. He takes it off, and he pulls out this like hunting knife, and he just like starts taking the knife right to one of their breasts. And her breasts with the knife, and then it cuts to a newspaper headline, like spiraling out, talking about how a man murdered 3 women and cut out their hearts. It's just like, oh, well, it's just like okay, I guess like they got their revenge because he's going to jail. But
what's up with all the spinning newspapers?
I don't know.
In movies this week.
It's a thing. People love the spinning newspaper.
So did the ending make up for the movie? Are you a big fan now?
Not. I like the movie. It's really well made, but I really did have a problem with. I didn't feel that the change of tune as far as like what we were being led to believe. Like, oh, because like no, the husband's like awful. Like he's borderline raping her at times, and then suddenly, oh, he's a good guy because he's a human. I'm like, that's not how this works. I don't know.
Well, I mean, for some people, it probably is how it works.
It seemed conflicted to me.
I got you.
But this kind of kicked off my run of watching vampire movies. The next one I watched was a much more lighter Mexican movie called El Vampiro. Kind of the first real like production in Mexico, I guess, about vampires. They were doing stuff all along. They have like the Curse of the Crying Woman and stuff like that. It's not like this is like new territory, but this was kind of their like because you know we all know about Spanish Dracula.
Oh, I've heard everyone claims that it's better than normal Dracula.
Yeah, but the key there is normal Dracula is not very good at all.
Yeah, I mean, people are pretty down on Dracula. I think Dracula's fine. No. And I'm pretty sure I watched the Spanish version too, and I was like, also fine.
Yeah. It's slightly more fine, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But it's not this great masterpiece by any means. But El Vampiro, it is also not a masterpiece. It is fine.
So also fine?
It is fine.
Okay.
Sometimes this one follows again. It's been weeks and many movies ago. Let's see. Let's read a synopsis again. Refresh my memory. A pretty young Mexican girl returns to her hometown to make funeral arrangements for her beloved aunt who has just died. Soon she begins to hear disturbing stories about the town being infested by vampires, and she eventually begins to suspect that her remaining aunt and the mysterious next-door neighbor may be involved. So it kind of like sounds like Fright Night in some ways, but
yeah, a little bit,
but not. So apparently, the vampire in this, you know, your Dr. Acula type.
Oh yeah,
he's got a brother vampire who did die, and he's trying to bring him back on his 100th anniversary because that's how vampires work. And so he's shipped some Hungarian dirt into Mexico to rebury him, and then there's going to be a whole to-do, and like they're going to kill a particular woman at a particular time to transfer souls, blah blah blah. And the one guy keeps saying that he's like a salesman. He's actually a vampire hunter, kind of. It's foggy for me. It's a harmless Saturday afternoon type of movie. Saturday morning, actually, because it's not particularly shocking or even horrific other than it has vampires. This is where the Instagram post I did about the fat shaming came from, where there's like this perfectly fine man. He's just, standing by his coach. And then these two people from afar, wow, look at that ugly man. Yeah, he's very unattractive. It's like, what?
You say that like you don't do that in real life all the time. Every time I'm with Jarrett, he's always like, look at this ugly fat fuck. And I'll be like, whoa, Jer, you got to be considerate of other people's needs. And he's like, I don't give a shit. And then he'll like flick a cigarette butt at some kid's face. Yeah. So you weren't down with the fat shaming, huh?
No, I laughed because it was just like, wow, that's so cruel. This is from out of nowhere. But nothing will stand up though, like the 1970 film Jonathan that I watched, which I like these. I like to check out these European horror movies, these deep cuts, movies that like nobody can watch. You have to like look online, dig them up. It's got this great poster, this great black and red poster, and it's like, what the hell is this all about? You read the synopsis. I'm going to read it too because it sounds amazing. A group of vampires terrorize a small village on the German North Sea coast. Doesn't that sound like magical?
Yeah, sounds cool.
The young Jonathan joins a group of fellow students and locals who plan an uprising against the vampires.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound good.
So this movie is gorgeous to watch. Like it's such a nice looking movie. It reminds me, it's West German, and it shouldn't be a surprise, I guess, that it reminds me of Werner Herzog's movies from this same period of time. Like the world that he's filming in looks the same, the camera equipment's probably the same, the film stock, all of that. So I'm like all on board with this. Lots of like moving cameras, panning back and forth. The camera's always moving. It's got these really cool visuals of, I don't know if there's just like this huge mob of like flower girls who just follow around this one woman, and they're just like, they seem so innocent, but there's something really menacing about them because they just always appear at the worst times, and they do little dances, and they don't do anything like overtly menacing. They're just there setting the thing, being like, uh-oh, if they're around, so is this, and why are they there? Why aren't they doing anything else? So the movie's got these really obvious Nazi overtones that like the Dracula in this, he yells and shouts in German, and there's like a lot of trappings of fascism to this like vampire gang that's terrorizing the town. They just show up, they throw people through windows and take what they want. They turn people, they kill them in their like castles' backyards without any fear of reprisal. And it's all about this attempt to stop this menace, and there's tortures and stuff like that. But I was like really kind of enjoying this movie, RJ, until a particular scene comes about where our protagonist, he's been captured by the Nazi vampires. He's being drugged down to the dungeon, and then I spy in the corner of my eye, oh, there's a rat. There's just a rat hanging out, and like one of the like Nazi vampire goons, he like grabs the rat, and I'm like, oh, what's he going to do with that rat? He takes that rat, he just spikes it to the ground. And I'm like, aw. But then, the rat's like going to scurry off. It's like, oh, he's fine. He's a rat. They're like pretty hardy little creatures.
Sure.
But then this guy proceeds to stomp the rat to death. And this is just like happening like in the tableau of the shot. Because like the main thing is these guys are like chaining up the hero of the story. But like, no, my attention's full on like, oh, what's going on over there? And yeah, I was not that ruined the movie for me basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That would ruin the movie for me too. So
because I kept thinking about it the rest of the time, being like, why did they do that? Because it's like,
why would you do that?
Because up to this point, okay, the other thing too is throughout the movie, like this movie's going for that like pastoral, like people living in a village thing. Like it feels like a D&D adventure to me, like, but like it feels very realistic. There's like livestock all over this movie. There's chickens and cows, but then there's also dead chickens and cows because you're kind of like, oh, how did those things get dead? Is that a sleeping horse? And I'm just like, at the time, I'm like, well, they don't linger on it enough, and you don't see it actually happen, so you can't say one way or another what's actually happened. But then you see the rat scene, and it's just like, oh, my word. But yeah.
Usually, I'm the one who has an issue for this this stuff.
This one though, it crossed the line, even for me. I was kind of like, Fox is getting shot. It's like, ugh, that's cool. And I think the one recently talking about Penelope Spheeris's Suburbia with the dogs, like it's like, oh, we have to simulate them being shot, so we're going to use this trip line. It's just like, what the fuck? So, but this though is just like, wow, that is just awful. And I find it surprising that nobody talks about it. But like, very few people watch this, and it seems like the people who do, this doesn't bother them that much. But I was like, and also my cat was laying on me at the time, and when you're petting your furry little creature and you're watching a furry little creature getting killed, stomped to death, it's kind of like, yeah, I could have done without that.
Well, and even like, I mean, I'm glad that you appreciate it, even the monster that is Jared Duncan.
Yes.
And it's like the thing too, it's like some people are like, well, it's just a rat, and it's like, yeah, but that's not really a good enough reason, you guys. And plus, like I've said many times, rats are like one of the best, and they're also, I don't know, rats are smarter than cats and dogs. So if you really want to get into semantics here, it'd be like, I don't know, I don't know, man. That sounds bad.
If that never happened, the movie would be fine. Like, I'd be like,
what was the name of this one again?
Jonathan.
So that's why you told me not to get into that Jonathan business.
Yeah, because you had said, hey, I'm going to check that out. It's got a cool poster. And it's like, oh, RJ, this is a movie you should never lay eyes on. But like, and it's so frustrating because so much going for it as far as like this kind of like interesting movie. Like, I think redemption films should I mean, I still, even at this point, think they should release it on Blu-ray. But it's just so stupid.
Yes, I agree. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's.
I'm glad you told me.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's up there. It's one of the worst things I've seen. And I've watched fucking Cannibal Holocaust. But I don't know. It's like turtles. It's like that monkey. That monkey. At least they ate it. Like they were doing it to eat them or whatever. And
I know that's the argument there.
This is just like. There was no point other than be like, see, they're Nazis because they're bad. And you're like, I know. Like, I've been watching the movie. They're bad. They're the bad people. They're doing bad things to bad people. It's like, let's put it over the edge. Here, dude, take this rat and do something with it. It's just like, I don't know. Maybe that actor was ad-libbing and it just got out of hand. Who knows? Maybe he's the real monster.
Yeah, probably is. I bet that dude did that and they kept rolling. And then when it was done, they were kind of like, Craig?
Zah.
I don't know.
Do it again?
You want me to do it again?
I need another rat.
See, I won't chime in too much because my opinion has been made aware many times. But yeah, that sounds shitty.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Well, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, so we can go from throwing rats to throwing women.
Okay.
You ever heard of Ghostland, Jarrett? From Pascal Loguilia.
I hadn't really heard of it, but I did note
it's got two titles.
Yes, I know this is on Shudder, and I know that you've seen it. That's from the director of Martyrs.
Yes.
And I noticed that you used the hashtag problematic.
Yes.
Which is, I think, a first.
A first? I do find this movie problematic for, a few reasons. So I don't know. What do you know about this thing?
Nothing. Well, other than I looked it up and then I went, oh, but I don't know. Like I was like trying to find something. What's RJ talking about? Then I went, oh. So we continue on. Like I really don't know anything about it.
So yeah, this is from the guy who did Martyrs, and it does have like. I don't think it has a Martyrs level twist because Martyrs, like every 15, 20 minutes, the movie like becomes more complex and you're like, oh, fuck. This thing just has like one big one, I guess. And it's pretty fast, actually. I'd say it's like 20 minutes in where the movie plays out. I'll tell you the intro and then I won't tell you what happens after there. Like, I think you'll figure it out anyways, but just in case other people, because this movie only came out a year ago. So you have this family, this single mom and two teen daughters, and they inherit a farmhouse from an aunt or someone. So they go to move in, and the night that they move in, they're kind of walking around the house, and they're like, this house is fucking weird. And it's like, yeah, this is. And they're like, who is living here? There's a lot of weird stuff in this place. And they're like, yeah, it is. And then two people come, Jarrett, while these young ladies are moving into the house. You have, and this is the problematic part. The two men who are the aggressors in this movie, one of them is a hard R. I'll just say that he has mental disabilities.
Special little guy.
He's a special guy, but he's the very stereotypical special guy who's also like 8 feet tall and like can move cars with one hand. Yeah. So he's the heavy, he's the muscle. Yeah. The dumb-witted muscle. And then the other of the men is a cross-dresser, transvestite. And they are your bad guys for this evening. So it's problematic in the sense where I don't actually feel like it's like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But when I was watching this, I was like, I don't know if this current society and culture are going to be on board with these two, this ragtag team of bad guys, the dumb like special needs huge guy, and then the transvestite crossdresser. You know what I mean, Drew? So it didn't really bother me that much, but I can see it being an issue with other people. So anyways, these two guys come into the house. Big guy basically comes in, starts raping. Weird guy.
Jesus.
Weird guy. Yeah.
Wow,
Okay. So
okay.
Weird guy comes in and he's kind of like obsessed with the girls, because like the cover is kind of like a doll face. So you get the impression that like the cross-dressing guy wants to be a woman, and he lives this out by like finding women, like putting makeup on them and stuff.
Is this a like a trans woman, or is this like a Buffalo Bill type of situation?
It's hard to say, because you don't actually, that dude doesn't like get shown very much. You do like, you see him, but like, I don't know if he even has lines in this movie. So it's like his intention's a little different. Like the impression I got was that he just loved dolls and he just wanted to be a doll. But I think that like after it, because I didn't look into this movie at all. I've learned not to do that with this guy. But after I watched it, I just quickly scanned like the first page, and that was the kind of stuff I was picking up from other people. So I was like, maybe he's trans. I think he just really liked dolls, man. And he just wanted to be a doll. So I don't think that had really anything to do with sexuality. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not an authority on this.
No,
I can't say
clearly
sure.
clearly not,
Yeah.
RJ. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I haven't seen the movie, so I don't even know if.
Well, one day you will, because I do recommend watching it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So here, those guys come. They start like raping, and like other dude like wants to dress up as a doll and stuff, right? And then you jump to like 20 years in the future, and they're grown up, and daughter that got raped is like
what?
So they still live in the house, and then the daughter that got raped is like very unstable and like is just living PTSD all the time, and daughter who didn't get raped is like a famous author now. Mm-hmm. And then she comes back to the house, and then you get your twist.
Oh.
So like it's kind of like I said, I don't think it's actually the biggest twist, and it happens really fast. It's like 20 minutes in. So I don't think
all of what you've talked about is like the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's all like the first 20 minutes. So here's the thing that I'll say. I think this movie is actually pretty good. It's very tense.
Really?
Like, well, it's not like, I don't think this is like a slam dunk movie or anything like that. I think it's a good movie because it's tense, and I think this dude is like pretty effective in the way he makes the movies like keep me guessing, kind of, if that makes sense. Like, I think you figure it out eventually. And there's, like I said, it is problematic, especially with other things that you get into later in the movie. You're like, oh, his movies make me uncomfortable. And I think that's kind of like what one brand of horror is supposed to do. It's not, I can't be completely on board with a lot of all the stuff that happens in this movie, but I didn't think it was bad, man. I thought it was good. I recommend you watch it. It is like, it's got that classic Pascal Lagourier stuff where you're like, oh, things are looking up, and then everything sucks again, like always. Not great. So I don't know. I don't think it's not like Martyrs. Like, I don't feel like he's trying to cash in on Martyr stuff, but I don't know, man. Are you interested in Ghostland?
Not really. It seems
because of the problematic issues.
I don't know. I've never seen a trailer for it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe it could be good. Your description doesn't make it sound good to me.
Oh no, you didn't like that first 20 minutes?
It sounds like a mess. It sounds like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's not on the top of my watch list. That's for sure.
I could tell you what happens. Like, I honestly don't think it's that big of a spoiler because it's 20 minutes in. If you're interested.
Wow, you can tell me off air, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, My thing is, I think it was good because it's suspenseful and it makes you uncomfortable a little bit, but not in like throwing rats kind of way. It is gross. Like all the rape stuff is weird. So
Really?
yeah, but I don't know. It's not Martyrs, but it's okay. You follow, man?
I follow.
Yeah. Do you want to hear about anything else, or should I
Sure.
just end it forever? Do you want to hear about Halloween is Grinch night? Have you ever heard of this fucking thing?
Because you logged it. I would have probably watched this when I was like a kid.
So the only reason I watched this was because I was trying to beef my numbers up a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, there's a Grinch that
You're
takes
just,
place on Halloween.
Yeah, juking the stats.
Juking the stats, man. And I was like, oh, really? I'll watch that. I'll throw that thing on. It's kind of strange. It it has things that seem like they were used in the Grinch, but repurposed a little bit. And then it also this thing kind of seems like some kind of weird Mormon I don't even know, man. Like everyone's name is like Urikiah and Ezekiel, and they're talking about like all these kind of vaguely religious things, and you're like, what's going on here? And the way that they talk, I don't know. It's not written by Dr. Seuss, I'll tell you that much. I don't know who wrote this fucking thing. And then it gets into weird stuff it's kind of like 70s animated LSD movies where I think this was made for people to trip out on. The animation is cool. You'll have things like wheels that have arms and they're moving around and stuff like that. The story itself is there's no story. It's the day before Halloween, the Grinch comes and shits on people. This one, he's also super, super mean to his dog Max. I know he's mean in the normal Grinch, but in this one, they give the dog a inner voice, and it's just he's like, I don't know why I stay with my owner when he abuses me and calls me bad names and hits me. It's like, I guess life's not fair. And you're just like, whoa. You're like, that's fucking dark for this Halloween Grinch movie.
Yeah.
So you get stuff like that, and the main story is about some kid I don't know, trying to find a monster or something like that. It's a strange thing, Jarrett. It's strange.
What are you doing this Halloween? What are you doing over there?
Me? I don't.
These movies with special needs and trans villains and abused dogs.
I don't know if he was trans. I think he maybe just really liked dolls. But again, I don't know. Maybe am I just naive? Maybe. I don't know. You watch it and you tell me what happened. You know what it kind of reminded me of was your favorite movie, High Tension. The movie that I absolutely hated, but it's got similar vibes. You look completely stunned.
Yeah, because.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
You just be stunned. You can take it over from here if you want.
Yeah, okay. So I watched a Hammer horror movie.
Which one?
Scars of Dracula.
Ooh, nice.
It is a Hammer horror vampire movie.
Sure it is.
It's the continuation of the Hammer vampire Dracula stuff with Christopher Lee. He's doing stuff. He's messing people up. And this one is based on the fact that I haven't watched one of these in 5 years. This one seemed better than the last one. It had some good gore, some good effects.
Which one was this? Scars?
Scars of Dracula, yeah.
Is this the one that I liked a lot? Is this the disco one?
No, that's 1972. This one's still
okay.
This one's still the period piece, not the one where he gets brought to the future of 1972. That's next.
That's awesome. So I did watch the one if you want, I did watch Satanic Rites of Dracula after you're done talking about Scars of Dracula, but that's up to you.
You could jump in at that point. So yeah, Scars of Dracula. Like I said, these Hammer horrors, they don't, other than the original Hammer horror of Dracula, that one I think is actually a really cool adventure pulpy Dracula thing. And after that, it's just diminishing returns. They never really get much better than that. Actually, I always remember being so disappointed by Dracula Prince of Darkness because it's got the best title. That's such a good title. And it's probably the worst one because it's the one where he doesn't talk.
Yeah.
So this one's Dracula's a bit of a thicker boy. It seems like Christopher Lee was he was hitting catering, so it was very his face just seems a lot rounder than when he was Saruman later in his life, older. So it was kind of like I kind of laughed at that. At this point, again, it's foggy. These movies, they blur when these British movies are kind of doing this Germanic set dressing with the German style houses, and everyone's got like German names, but they're all English as hell. And I don't remember too much about it, truth be told, but I remember being like, oh, there's some good gore. Oh yeah, there's lots of cleavage shots. That's another thing that seemed to be a thing that this movie really cranked up, was just like all these young women just like bowing down, giving out beers, giving out food, and it's just like the camera just like holds on their breasts, and it's just like, wow, they're just
tasteful.
Yeah, it's very, very subtle, but yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, so this is the one with blood and boobs. That's maybe the birth of that, and it's just gotten worse from there.
It's like me.
And then you saw Satanic Rites, the last Christopher Lee Dracula.
Oh, is it? So I'm done now?
Well, there is the Kung Fu one.
Oh yeah, I'll watch that for sure.
Yeah.
I've just been making my way. I do one a year. The last one, Dracula in 1972. I thought that one was really cool. I don't know if other people will agree with me. So I watched the Satanic Rites of Dracula, Jared. And remember how you really like cult movies, but then cult movies aren't. You really like the idea of cult movies, but they never actually make good on that promise.
Yes.
This movie's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So there's like a cult, and it's kind of like, I was a little like unclear of what their intentions were, because I was like, what are they doing? Like, what is the purpose of this thing? And then I think it casually gets dropped later. It's like they're trying to like do bad stuff to everyone. And you're like, what? It's broad. Okay. But on the side, so you have that, and then on the side you have like a real estate tycoon like running around amok on stuff, and the police are looking for him, and then they call in Van Helsing.
How does a real estate agent run amok?
Well, it's kind of like the properties that he owns are the ones where these cults are like coming into play, and I think he was like, I don't know, tax fraud or some shit. So like the British police are like, we got to get that guy. And like, it sounds like a lot of stuff. It's not, but it does come to be like, it's too much stuff in this. Cause even when I was watching it, I was like, I don't know if they need all this junk in here. So you get that. And then, I mean, you can have two guesses as to who the evil real estate tycoon is. And then, you know, the 18th reincarnation of Van Helsing, Peter Cushing, comes and he does his thing. He's looking tired in this one. This one was not great. I like the 70s thing. Like you talk about all the time how you like 70s movies, and the music is cool, and I like the way that it's filmed, and it's always like dudes like bobbing around. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And then you get like a bunch of Dracula's brides. They're like chained up in a basement, and you're like, ooh, that's spooky. It's got cool parts, but it's like you said, it's just this Hammer movie. It's nothing.
Yeah,
nothing special.
Yeah, there's like, just like Universal, there's a lot of mythology around the quality of these things. I think they're fun when you're a kid, but yeah, when you watch them as an adult and there's like 7 of these things, and you're like, yeah, they kind of just do the same thing over and over again, don't they? Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Was the real estate agent's name like Al U Card?
No, it was just Dracula.
No,
it was just straight. Oh, because Peter Cushing goes in and he goes, "Wait a minute, you're Dracula," and like that's it.
You got me.
And he's like, "Yes." The letterbox says that it was like Dracula is tired of being alive, so the cult is there to destroy the entire world. And I never really got that. Maybe I missed it. I was paying attention mostly. I don't know. If you were going to watch any of them, I would recommend Dracula 1972. That movie's pretty cool. Jer.
Cool. Well, that's next for me.
Yeah. Well, you're not gonna like it probably because I like it so much. Not that you don't like what I like, but you know that's just how it works. You can be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'll be like, I don't know. I thought it was fun.
Yeah. I watched this movie called Destroyer that has an awesome movie poster.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
That was in my list like last year. I could never find it though.
Yeah. Well, the Blu-ray 2-pack with this and the other movie I watched right after, Edge of Sanity, just went out of print from Scream Factory. So I picked it up before it disappeared. Just say, hey, because I love that poster of Destroyer, even though I've heard it's not very good. And that turns out to be correct. So Destroyer, it is about this giant, like muscle-bound man who's just like an unrepentant murderer, killing children, women, men, dogs, everything.
Oh.
He doesn't actually kill a dog in this.
Okay.
But maybe. No, he doesn't. He just kills everybody, though. And he's executed. And then after he's executed, something happens at the prison. And there was a riot. And now the prison's closed. But now there's some sleazy director played by Anthony Perkins. He's shooting a women in prison movie in the closed off part of the prison with some B actors, and the protagonist of the movie is this screenwriter with his girlfriend who is a stunt woman doing stunts for the Whip movie. And of course, one thing leads to another, and there's like this old janitor who's like hanging around, like still cleaning up the jail, but it turns out he's the father of Destroyer, I guess, of the murderer who actually wasn't totally executed. He was just like partially executed, and so he's been alive and waiting for his opportunity to strike. And now they're just running around, killing people, drilling people to death. Just mayhem, RJ.
What do you mean by drilling people to death?
Well, like literally a
what sense?
jackhammer. Literally, there's a jackhammer being used to like break up some brick walls, and he takes that and he just puts it through somebody. But we don't even get that really. It's like he gets stabbed. The guy gets stabbed with a jackhammer, and he's like, one man's set on fire inside of a toilet stall.
Cool.
A guy is hung to death. Someone is in fact electrocuted, as you would expect. That sort of thing. It's a very boring slasher film on the whole. There is nothing to recommend it other than the poster. It doesn't play to the strengths of having this like ridiculously muscle-bound man doing stuff. He barely shows up until like halfway through, and then when he shows up, he just laughs. And
what else is he gonna do? You know,
flex. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe like sell something. Like so this guy no sells all of his afflictions, and it just kind of goes on and on. Nothing too great, but followed this up. I was watching this on a Saturday night with Corey and Bryant. Watched Edge of Sanity, also starring, well, this one actually starring Anthony Perkins, and this is an adaptation. I know it is. It's an adaptation of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or Dr. Jekyll, as the kids like to say.
I mean, that's like I feel like that's a Frankenstein monsters thing. If you say Jekyll, I'm pretty sure it's fine.
It's fine. It is fine. So this movie though has a little tinges though of Ken Russell filmmaking, but it's like the exaggerated, crazy Ken Russell from like Tommy, rather than Devil's Ken Russell. Right. So it starts off like Anthony Perkins is Dr. Jekyll, but so he's working on his serum, but his serum in this, it's just cocaine. That's it. He's testing.
Well, I mean it worked for Nick Cage.
Did it?
Well, I mean it worked for Whoopi Goldberg.
Did it? So he's doing coke, and he's using it for medicinal reasons. He's doing experiments, using it as a anesthetic to put people so they're numbing stuff so they can do like eye surgeries and whatnot. And then he's got a monkey that he's just feeding cocaine, and this monkey's eating up this cocaine because cocaine's so great. And then the monkey like gets all coked up in his cage, and he's like caught having a fit, and then he knocks over this like chemical that like creates this reaction where it's just now freebasing essentially, and Anthony Perkins gets a big face full of this stuff, and now he's turning into Mr. Hyde because of coke. and the whole movie is him like having his little Coke spoon and just doing bumps. And when he does this, his hair completely changes, and he kind of turns into a like 1980s new wave kid, like wearing like baggy clothes. And then the movie also shifts because it's a period piece up to this point, like 19th century, and then suddenly he's like walking down the street and he's seeing like how like club kids in the 1980s are dressing, and he's going to these like crazy brothels and like weird sex clubs. And then he seems to be hitting it off with the ladies, even though, at the end of the day, it's still Anthony Perkins, who like at this point in his life, he is dying of AIDS. So he is like, he was always a very thin man, but here he's also like pale white and just like skin and bones. And I didn't even know that about Anthony Perkins. That's actually what he died of, was complications of HIV and then AIDS.
Yeah.
But and so we've talked about Oz Perkins, his son. So because so Anthony Perkins basically lived like a homosexual lifestyle for a long time, and then he met his wife and had his two sons, Elvis and Oz, and then he dies of complications with HIV. And then his wife, Oz Perkins' mother, she's on one of the planes that's used in the 9/11 attacks.
My God.
I did not know any of this until watching Edge of Sanity and being, whatever happened to Anthony Perkins? Actually, Corey was looking that up, and then he mentioned something about that, and I went, really? And then I looked up and I went, oh. And then his wife died that way. That's terrible, and nobody talks about this.
Oh my God, that poor man.
So back to Edge of Sanity. So this movie's wacky. I really enjoyed watching it. It is, I think it might try your patience, because it's, I'm not sure. You haven't really watched a lot of Ken Russell stuff, so I don't know what your gauge is on how he shoots stuff. It's kind of extravagant, a little indulgent. I think it would be fair to say Ken Russell's an indulgent filmmaker, and this movie isn't a Ken Russell movie. It's directed by a guy who's doing a Ken Russell impersonation, and he's doing a pretty good job of it. The guy who directed this, he basically just made like adult movies. But then he made this movie, and it's like, this is like really well shot and like not too bad. Like, this is one of the better movies I think I've seen all month. That still kind of stuck with me. So Destroyer stunk, but Edge of Sanity was not too bad. Not too bad.
I'm still just kind of reeling from
these
all
revelations.
That stuff you said. Yeah,
I know.
I didn't know any of that shit, and it's
I didn't really either.
It's like, 1, that's a bummer for Anthony Perkins. 2, that's a bummer for Mrs. Perkins. 3, that's a pretty big bummer for Oz and Elvis Perkins.
No.
Plus, I didn't know that the other Perkins, I didn't know that there was another one, and that his name was Elvis. Mm-hmm. All these things, they're blowing my mind, man.
Yeah. So, you want to hear about a movie called Black Candles?
Yeah, because I had this in my list at one point.
You did, and then you probably saw that I gave it 2 stars.
Yep.
And this movie's got an awesome poster, much like Destroyer.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to know what Black Candles is about?
I mean, I'm here, aren't I?
All right. So, Black Candles.
Uh-huh.
I barely can even begin to describe it, because all I remember is like one real scene. But it's like this husband and wife, they move back home because their sister-in-law's husband died suddenly. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of like being shown all these flashbacks of the weird tensions with this family. Like, it seemed like everybody was having sex with the person they weren't supposed to be having sex with. And boy, they are showing you these sex scenes. Like, we're talking like ankles over behind heads, sort of like sex scenes.
Jarrett style.
Yeah, very, very, it's like always shot like from the same angle, where it's just like, yep, there it is. That's exactly what this looks like. It seems very perfunctory and mechanical, but they keep doing it. They keep showing us these scenes with like different couplings, and like a 5th person arrives, and then it's all start being like, oh, okay, it's a satanic cult again. It seems like these deep dives of mine. That's the one thing, especially 70s movies. In this, like, right after the 70s, Satan's satanic occults, like, That's all they do. That's all they knew. And, oh, they're so boring. But this one puts a twist on it, RJ, because we get this set up. And like they're basically just flat out saying, too, it's like, oh, these are Satanists. There's like a Mario type of man. He works in the barn. He's like kind of bitter, it seems, because he's not getting any of this like hot Satanist women action he feels entitled to, but he's got a wife too, and she seems to be like a real trollop. She's having sex with the other guys, and it's really putting him out. He's like, I just want some of this like free Satan love.
What kind of love?
Free Satan love. I'm trying to get those new lingos over, those memes. So
yeah, sure.
So one of the things that they're doing, well, hey, we got to bring Satan back to Earth. You know what?
Sure.
One of the best ways of doing that, we're going to get this one girl. We're going to get her drugged up. She's going to have sex with this goat over here in the barn.
Real goat or satanic goat?
Real goat. So this.
Did you watch something you shouldn't have watched?
Well,
Jared?
no. It's more ridiculous than anything because it is not bestiality. I managed to dodge that particular bullet. Mm-hmm. So this is directed by the man who also worked on Vampires, a movie that I was fond of from last school, and has also directed a movie called Symptoms that I'm also quite fond of. This seemed to be, though, a man in a rut. This seems to be coming at a point in his time where he's just like, I got to get work, because this movie is artless and has like nothing going for it. But it's got sex, and we're like, hey, let's get people to talk about our movie. Let's have this like goat sex scene. So what this scene consists of is this girl, she gets kind of like brought in by the Satanist. She knows what she's in for. She's got to do the good thing for Satan. She lays down on this bed of hay, and then they're like getting this goat excited, like in a scene earlier, and then they bring this like, Black Peter goat in, and then like they just like have her laying underneath this goat, and this goat just stands there unmoving, and then she just starts like writhing around underneath the goat, and that's the scene, and it goes on for like 5 minutes, and this goat's just there completely indifferent to the stupidity of humans, and like, I don't know. And then she's supposed to be like acting like she's like really into it. And so she's like kind of putting her face around the head of the goat and like licking her lips. And the goat's just like there. But then they cut away to a scene where there's a guy wearing like a fucking goat like skin outfit. And he's doing some rumpy pumpy.
Oh, what?
You heard me. And so and then I just burst out laughing because I'm like, oh my god.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my god.
Well, Jer, I mean, I've said many times, I feel like you make poor decisions.
I do.
I've been known to make a few myself, but this movie, I don't know. I'm not sure why people always have to have sex with things.
I don't know.
I don't think everyone's all about bringing sexuality back to horror, and I feel like we need to go the other way. I brought this up last time. I think we need a hard stance to take sexuality out of life. Mm-hmm. Unless it's softcore sexuality.
We'll get there.
That I'm on board with.
Well, I did watch a movie later called House of Whipcord that I think reflects your worldview.
The sex is bad unless it's softcore and completely fake?
I think it's about the return to like corporal and capital punishment. I think,
okay.
Yeah, I think that's your kind of worldview.
Yeah, usually.
So, yeah, Black Candle's not a recommendation.
Okay.
But
I mean, okay.
The poster, excellent poster.
Yeah, it does look cool.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
I mean, I could tell you about The Devil's Wedding Night.
Sure. This movie that for some reason you also wanted to borrow.
I don't know why I borrow any of these fucking movies, dude. I really don't. From Joe D'Amato, director of Beyond the Dumpness, a movie that frankly wasn't that good, Jer. Just wasn't that good.
Oh, it's awesome. That movie's awesome.
What about The Devil's Wedding Night?
Not so awesome. Very boring.
Not so awesome.
Not pretty unremarkable.
Yeah, I can burn this bad boy out pretty quick. Devil's Wedding Night. You have two dudes. One's like, I found the lost amulet of Bethesda or some horse shit. And they're like, okay, cool. And they're like twins. And he's like, well, where is it? And he's like, well, it's just at this Castle Dracula in, Transylvania. No big deal. I'll just go up there and get it. And then it zooms in and goes, duh. And you're like, okay. So you check this out. Dude goes to the castle. It plays out in the standard Dracula fashion. Mm-hmm. You get a lot of people walking around and people standing on spot, and then people walk around for a little bit, and then they kind of stand around, and then they walk around.
Yep.
And then they stand for a while more.
How about that castle though?
The castle's pretty cool. The castle's cool, and then hey, Jarrett, guess what is in this one? A satanic cult.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what they do?
It is called Devil's Wedding Night.
Yeah, but I mean, by devil, it's like it's also just Dracula too. So yeah. I feel like they could have just called it like Dracula. The other tagline for the
Dracula question mark
Dracula. There's like all these different taglines for this, like Dark Desires unleash the legions of Lucifer. Mm-hmm. Satan is coming. Devil's Wedding Night. Like, I mean, the devil and Satan and Lucifer. It's 3 separate names for Dracula, and none of them are accurate. It's just Dracula. So, like, what is it, guys? If it was Prince of Darkness, like you said, you could argue that it was Dracula. Mm-hmm. But not the case. So this guy goes, some people are vampires, some people aren't vampires. You know the normal rouge, the normal rube, the normal rub. You know what I'm talking about, Jer?
I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and then one of the brothers is there. One of them is good, one of them is bad, and you're just kind of like, yeah. I don't even really remember this movie that much. All I know is like when I was watching it, there was a thing, and it was like Aunt Susan's Bucket of Blood edition, and I texted you. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Or what? It was something like that.
Katarina or something.
Katarina's Bucket View, and it was like watch normal version or that, and I was like. Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, that's some Code Red shit that I just ignore it. Don't ignore anything involving Banana Man or Katarina's Bucket List.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know what the fuck that is. I'm not watching it.
That's fine.
I'm not gonna do it, man. Mm-hmm. So that movie is whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's another movie that's whatever, and that is Night of the Zombies. Or Zombie Creeping Flesh.
Yeah.
So this movie's like this movie's got a lot going on.
It's got these little moments that are like that'd be kind of cool, but it's
the gore at the end is awesome.
It takes so long to get there.
The gore, not even in the last like 10 minutes. The gore in the like very last minute of this movie is like pretty cool. Where it's like, I don't know. There's like faces melting, people like puking up their guts. There's all sorts of stuff in the last like 5 minutes, and you're like, yeah. That's cool. Too bad it took 90 some minutes to get to that. You have these reporters, and they're in New Guinea in the jungle.
They always are.
And so they're down there, Cannibal Holocaust style. And then one of the female reporters like, don't worry, I'll handle this. And she like paints herself up. And I can only imagine something that's culturally inappropriate. And so she's running around and she's talking to the tribal people, and then other people come in, and then it shows that like the little like village is dying, and it's like zombies. It's kind of weird though, because they show like real sick people, and like I'm pretty sure one of them was like a real dead body, and I was like, this seems weird. It's like, well, maybe not a real dead body, but there's malnourished people in this, and I was kind of like, that's seems a little bit not tasteful, you know, Jer? Because they're kind of like capitalizing on these people who have no food for their horror movie. Do you know? Do you know?
Tell me more.
So anyways, they were like, oh, this is bad. But then like at the start of the movie, it starts in like a nuclear power plant. Yeah, and there's like a rat that gets in some guy's suit and bites him. So I was kind of like, where are these zombies coming from? Are they supposed to be from the nuclear power plant, or are they supposed to be from this town in the jungle? And you don't really get like a a straight answer. You have like the reporters running around and they get taken out by zombies. Like I think one of them is kind of cool, one of the deaths, and then the other ones are pretty standard fare, if you know what I mean.
Does this one have the sickle zombie, or is that another one? You would know what I'm talking about, I guess.
Like a sickle, like a tool?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
No,
I don't recall.
That's probably from the movie that's on the second movie on that 2-pack I lent you, Nightmare City.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, maybe it's Nightmare City.
Yeah.
This thing also has on the letterbox synopsis, not to be confused with the 1981 American-made film with the same title. And like even the poster and the title, there's 3 titles for this thing. Yeah. Zombie Creeping Flesh, Night of the Zombies, and Virus. It's like, which one is it, Bruno Mattei? Get it together, dude.
Well, I don't think he has anything to do with that part. That's just how they marketed those movies, because they could get your money 3 times.
Oh, those cheap.
Well, cheap American distributors just scumbagging you out of your money.
So this is another one that was like...
It's kind of like re-releasing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Avengers Endgame with deleted scenes at the end of the movie.
Oh, well, fuck. They did that in theater still.
Yeah, I know. You can come back to the theater and check out this movie again. Midsommar, and that's the thing this year is getting asses in seats.
Yeah. Oh, you watched the movie? Did you want to watch it with 30 seconds of new footage?
Like an already 3-hour-long movie? Do you want to watch it?
You do.
Well, it's like 20 minutes for the one. It's like, nope, I'll wait. Just like I have for all the special features of all my Blu-rays that I never watch.
So silly, Jarrett. So silly. Hey, do you want to hear about At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul?
Sure.
From Jose Mojico Marin. So I watched this movie about Coffin Joe. You know about Coffin Joe, Jared?
Yeah, I've got the Coffin Joe trilogy that this first installment came out of. Coffin
Joe's a bad dude.
He is not a nice man.
Coffin Joe is a bad dude. Let me tell you.
He's a bit of a scamp.
A little scamp, a little mischievous.
Yeah.
So I think I caught wind of this maybe from Cinemassacre's Monster Madness years ago.
Yeah, he would have covered that way back when.
Yeah, years and years ago. So I think that's where I first saw this thing. But I can't even remember what my interest was in it now. But so I'm watching this thing, and you got this Coffin Joe dude, and he's going around, and he is just a huge piece of shit.
Oh yeah.
To every person he meets. The thing that surprised me most about this is like how much they actually get him to do in this movie, because this movie came out in 1964.
Yeah.
And he's going around full on raping people. He's like beating up women on screen. He's just doing things like he's got really long fingernails, and some guy's like, "You'll never get away with this, Coffin Joe," and he's like, "Oh yeah," and he pokes out his eyes, and they like come out on his fingernails. And I was watching, I was like, "Holy fuck!" I was like, because it's not like the craziest shit, like it's not Martyrs level crazy stuff, but for a 1960s movie, I was like, I never thought I'd see a 60s horror movie where a dude was just full on raping people.
Because this movie's not from America.
Yes, I'm aware now. I don't think I pieced that together the first half an hour. I was like, hey, they're not speaking English.
What's wrong with this DVD?
This DVD is all wacky.
Just hitting your player.
I took the disc out. I kind of put it in my teeth to check if it was real, and then put it back in.
Right.
But yeah, Coffin Joe's a pretty bad dude. Like, he'll just go around. He'll go to a bar and be like, bring me food, slave. And he'll be like, wipe my butt, slave. And like, he just makes people do like crazy shit like that. And then if they don't do it, he just beats them up.
Yeah.
And then the one time someone stands up to him, he's like, you know what, Coffin Joe, we're not going to put up with your shit anymore, man. He's like, oh yeah. And he like breaks a bottle and starts like killing people. He's like, are you going to put up with me now? It's also kind of hilarious because Coffin Joe just wants to have a son. So he keeps raping women until one of them gets pregnant. But like the way the funny part, it's not him raping people, but the funny part is that when he's like monologuing in between things, he's like, I just want a son. He's like, if you can't pass on your heritage, you're nothing. And it's like this kind of his message compared to what he's doing. You're like, huh, interesting. So Coffin Joe's a bad dude. Yeah. There's like some mysticism in there a little bit.
Yeah.
Nothing wild, but you know, the good kind of like, there's a little bit in there. Just a little taste for you. Still a taste, Jared.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it. I thought it was okay. Some people really, really like it, but I mean, it gets kind of repetitive.
Yeah, well, like it's every 5 minutes he'll go and someone will be like, "Stop it, Coffin Joe," and he'll go, "No," and they'll just beat him up.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay.
Yeah. So there's 4 of these in total, I believe.
Oh, really? What are the if in this first one it gets repetitive? What are the other 3 about?
Well, I think the second one I remember liking more. Hold up. I'm trying to because they all have these like very poetic titles.
Yeah.
Go. Maybe I should type in Coffin Joe and not Coffin Boy.
Coffin Boy?
Coffin
That'd be a cool name for a sidekick.
The Strange Worlds of Jose Mojico Marin.
Huh?
Actually, what's this? 8? 8? That's not true.
Are some of them broken into 2?
Okay, well, I'm not sure. I think there's like the At midnight I'll take your soul, followed by This night I'll possess your corpse.
That sounds cool.
Actually, I guess I like that one less than the first one. The Strange World of Coffin Joe, Awakening of the Beast. That one's also in the set I've got, and then we've got End of Man, which I don't know if that's supposed to be any good. Strange Hostel of Naked Pleasures. It's got a pretty cool cover. Hellish Flesh. That's a good title. And then Hallucinations of a Deranged Mind. But there's actually a kind of another like official film with him that came out like not that long ago. Embodiment of Evil from 2008.
Was Coffin Joe still alive?
Yeah, and it's him playing himself. What? It's still him playing Coffin Joe in 2008.
How fucking old was he? Like Abe Vigoda?
Well, he's 40 years older, so yeah, he's still kicking. So he's an old grandpa.
Dang. That's wild. Yeah. Well, anyways, I mean, Coffin Joe, he's a bad dude. Mm-hmm. That's about all I can say about it.
A regular RJ.
What do you mean?
I watched an actual Ken Russell movie, talking about Ken Russell earlier. I watched...
Was it Coffin Joe?
Gothic.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Gothic?
Nope.
I see. This is a movie that it fucked me up when I was a kid because I'd see the cover of this VHS at the store, and like you should look it up. Look up.
I'm looking at it. It's a little sleep paralysis type stuff.
Yeah,
huh?
It's that fucking incubus thing sleeping on your chest, and it's a guy like that's like a dude that's in the movie too. But that VHS cover, I look at that thing, and it creeps me out because I know because a succubus, it's like. A lady demon, and you're like, that's cool. And this is a dude demon that wants to sex you up. It's like,
oh, Jarrett,
no, I don't want dude demon.
Oh, so, Jarrett, problematic.
No, that was like this little imp man sitting on my chest, which I'm actually often reminded of when my cat lays on my chest. Because that's probably where it came from. That weight, and it's just there breathing on you, waiting for you to wake up so you can be fed. Little bastard. So Gothic. Gothic is it's very theatrical. It's a fictional telling of the night that Mary Shelley got the idea for Frankenstein.
Okay.
So this movie stars Gabriel Byrne and
the guy who worked on the X-Men comic book.
What?
Byrne?
John Byrne? Gabriel Byrne.
Oh, okay.
From Hereditary.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, now you got it.
Yeah, I got you.
By Jove. Usual Suspects.
Yes.
Yeah.
That dude.
Cool World.
Oh. Cool.
Cool World. So, he's Lord Byron.
Okay.
Gabriel Byrne. I'm blanking on his name. Oh.
Lord Byron?
Parker Bowman's guy. Oh, damn it. What's his name?
Corey Feldman?
No. Blonde guy. Warlock.
Corey Feldman?
Julian Sands.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's Pierce Bryce Shelley. And so this movie is about it's like Fear and Loathing in Switzerland. Because they were on a road trip. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the English lit background of Frankenstein. Like so
a little bit.
So
a little bit.
Yeah, old Pierce Shelley. He's he was a libertine. He's like, he rocks with like that, trying to be a Marquis de Sade in real life, but like just like it's excuse to like have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want, do whatever you want. You only live once. Our body's just a vessel. So these people, they're all being degenerates up in the castle and doing drugs and trying to like spook each other out. And yeah, it's hallucinogenic. It's like the one night of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in the hotel room played out, but it never gets there. It never gets to become a good movie. There's these really good little visuals in it. There's the doctor in this. There's a scene where he grabs the jug where all the leeches are kept for, you know, of course, treating people's sicknesses. And he starts just drinking the jug water. And that's like definitely one of the more horrifying things I've seen this month.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I was just like, whoa, man, I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, it doesn't even like, you think that being a Ken Russell movie, the production elements would be like really great, and you'd be like, yeah, like you could at least say that like it looks really good. But even that, it's like it seems fine for what it is, but the story just never gets going, and it's just people acting like they're on drugs and having and partying too hard, and so it's hard to sympathize with them because they all just seem like assholes for the most part. Even like you'd think like Mary Shelley would be kind of like more hapless, but no, she's part of it. She's sucked in with these weirdos, these perverts, and and you're just like, oh yeah, I own this Blu-ray. It's part of the Vestron Collector Series. It's mine now. I had to get it off. I had to take it off the list because Ken Russell, who I otherwise do like, but this is toward the later half of his career as it gets like weaker and weaker. So.
How does it fare towards other Mary Shelley, historical fiction?
Well, I've never seen Mary Shelley, but there is the one Warren Ellis written comic called Frankenstein's Womb that is actually really good.
Frankenstein's Womb?
Yeah, it's like
what goes on in there?
It's just kind of it's kind of like him trying to do like an Alan Moore story, where it's kind of like going from this like kind of like meta standpoint of telling the story of Frankenstein, but also telling the story of the author and like her whole thing about having a miscarriage and like how it's about her own child, and then like kind of like this idea of like creation as an act of like legacy and immortality. And so in some ways she did create life that lived forever because she created the story of Frankenstein. It's one of those types of stories. This movie tries to get to that, but it completely fails. Like it's like, oh, Warren Ellis wrote a better comic than Ken Russell made than this movie. So, well,
I mean, Warren Ellis did some other weird stuff too, though. You know,
what, like Planetary?
Sure. If that's how you want to see it.
Okay. I followed this up with the first Jean Rollin movie I've seen for a very long time. This is Jean Rollin, the guy directed the Iron Rose that I believe. I don't know if you borrowed that one. You did borrow a Jean Rollin movie once.
Oh yeah, I have the Iron Rose right now.
Okay, you have that, but I think you watched Grapes of Death. If you remember that one.
Yeah.
That French zombie thing. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that movie's neat. So this is his 1997 movie. So this is like getting on after his like heyday, and it's another Redemption Films Blu-ray. And I'm like, well, I'm watching these vampire movies. It seems like I'm going around the world watching vampire movies from different countries. So this is as good as any to represent France. So this is a movie. It feels like a Guillermo movie.
Oh no!
But not at all. Like the story feels like something he would write, but the execution is absolutely nothing like he would make. There's ways that he shoots incidental scenes that are so nice, but this movie, like the dialogue is a real trial, and that's a common thing with his movies. But in this one, it's just not good. Not good writing, and it doesn't get better as things get more contemporary, because this movie is set in 1997. It feels like it's shot in New York at times, because like these two like girls that are like best friends who they're vampires, and it seems like they die, but then they get resurrected together, and they're always in orphanages, and they go about their business, and then they start eating people until something bad happens, but they never really remember how they die. But they're blind during the day, but then their vision returns when it's night, and so all those scenes at night are shot with blue filter. So it's like, yeah, okay. There is a woman in this movie that has this like really shitty costume, but she's supposed to be some sort of like mythical creature, like called like a nighthawk, who's like this like bigger, like she's almost like a predator of vampires, but she's like willing to help them one night. The movie just kind of drifts through these scenes. They get adopted by an eye doctor who wants to help cure their blindness, but they're basically just like tricking him, and they're laughing about it. And he's like kind of a dope, but you're also kind of like creeped out by the fact that this like single like 65-year-old man's adopting these two like girls who are like 16, 17-year-old girls.
Is that creepy?
To me, it feels a little off in this movie, in the context of this movie. But they never go that route. But there is a scene, RJ, involving these vampire girls where they kill and feast on a dog. But RJ, it is like the cutest dead dog you've ever seen, because the dog is so clearly alive, and they just like put and they just put like big like fake gore wound on him, and he's just breathing. He's fine. He's just laying there like awake, and like you'd see him breathing. His tail's kind of wagging like he's having fun, and everyone's like talking like he's dead. He's like, oh man, we gotta bury him now, and he's just laying there being a good dog. And I was like, see, that's okay. It's like it completely like kills the movie as far as like whatever they're going for, but you're like, oh, that dog's fine, and I'm like, this is good.
I way prefer that. And it's funny that you mentioned like that specifically, because I had a friend last week say that they would like to do something similar, where it would be a dog movie, but the dog was just very clearly alive, and it's like, yeah, see, no big deal. Dog's alive. You just pretend. Just pretend.
Yeah.
Like even taking you out of the movie at all, I would still prefer that greatly. If you did that, whatever. I'm on board. I'm on board.
Not spiking dogs, just mowing them down. Yeah. So,
not spiking dogs or chickens.
Yeah. So yeah, 2 orphan vampires, not very good. There's just like so many better Roland movies that you would watch. Which I wasn't surprised that this was going to be a letdown. That's probably why I've waited so long on it, but still, it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds shitty, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, still going down that shitty road. So I watched this movie, A Quiet Place in the Country.
Oh, right.
I had some high hopes. This is directed by, what's his name? Elio Petra or something like that. He directed one of the best movies I've seen in like a decade. Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion. That movie rocked my world, and when I found out he made this like kind of horror thriller pseudo giallo movie, I was like, shit, yeah, how could this go wrong? Oh, it's boring. It's
one of those.
Yeah. So Frank Nero, he's the star of this, and Vanessa Redgrave from The Devils, she's in this too. She plays his dealer girlfriend, who's kind of seemingly taking advantage of his state of mind. He seems to be a bit of a damaged man and having problems with the world. And they're just like, no, that's fine. Just keep painting. And eventually he's having such problems they have to take him out of the city, and they go to a quiet place in the country. This nice estate out in the middle of nowhere. But it turns out this house has a history where a young woman was killed by what has been told. Because it's Italian, but it's set in the English countryside by a German warplane, World War II. Like a girl just happened to be like walking by her house, and then this plane just came by and just killed her. But it turns out over time to not be the case. And there's like these things that like he thinks he's being visited by this ghost of this woman, who apparently was a real sex pot and was like just sleeping with all the dudes in town. Everybody liked her. But and then so there's like kind of this like thing that comes on later that's like, well, maybe it wasn't a warplane after all that killed her. It was something else, somebody else. So the whole thing, I mean, you're kind of supposed to go along with this idea that it's a ghost story, but it's just like it's an artist going mad story. Yeah. The opening credits of this are like really interesting. It starts off, you're like, oh man, I'm watching some real deal cinema here. And then it keeps going and going and going, and it just never goes to anywhere interesting. And it's not fun either.
Kind of like a Ghoul School.
Yeah. It's just long. boring.
Never really goes anywhere, and it's not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Quiet Place in the Country. Huge disappointment for me. It has a similar place because there's the other movie I want to watch that will be around next year, I guess. Seance on a Wet Afternoon.
Okay.
Which, like, to me, feels like it fits in the same space of like tone. So I'm like, okay. That's why you save those movies up, because you have to be in the right mood. And I'm pretty sure I was in the right mood to watch this, but there's a scene where he like confronts a butcher about like what he knows about this girl. It's just like, it's so badly done, because the butcher's like, I don't know anything about that. And then his wife comes out. It's like, what's going on here? Nothing. And then he like turns to him and goes, I'll talk to you outside. Like right in front of her. It's like, what? It's so badly acted out. This isn't how this would play in real life. It's just so many questionable things that I don't know what they were going for. And then the movie's got this like weird ending where he's lost his mind. He's like killed people making his art, but now he's like in an insane asylum. But there's like a guy who's like got a setup where he's smuggling the crazy paintings out of the insane asylum. And he's like, who cares?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for real though, who does care?
Who does care?
You know, I don't know. Like, I had this in my list too. I don't even know why.
Well,
I didn't know it was in yours.
It's a movie that comes up like in, I mean, as far as like best horrors you haven't watched, and then it's one where you're like, oh, I haven't seen that, and then it sounds good on paper, but then watching it, you're just like, nah, not feeling this. But I'll throw one more to you. And then they'll give it back to you. So there's this one movie I came across totally randomly off somebody's list on Letterboxd. It's got this title, At the Meeting with Joyous Death. And I'm like, what's this? And I see it's directed by some guy named Buñuel. And I'm like, who's that? I'm like, oh, it's the son of Louis Buñuel.
Juan Louis Buñuel?
Yeah, Louis Buñuel and Juan Louis Buñuel. And he made a movie, and he made a haunted house movie.
Cool.
It also goes by Expulsion of the Devil. So I found a shitty copy of this because it only exists on like bad like cheesy flicks bootlegs. There's no restoration of this, and there really needs to be. So this movie is like kind of what you'd expect a Louis Buñuel horror film would be. Kind of, it's just like a guy with his family. They bought a house out in the country, and because he's an artist and she is a fashion designer, so they're kind of moderately successful, but not really. And they got 2 kids, and they hate life, like city life, and they're like, let's get away from that all. They buy this place. It turns out that this house that they moved into, it doesn't like people. It doesn't like having people in it. And so you get these like kind of like very matter-of-factly presented hauntings where it's just like, oh, this paint can just tipped over by itself. But it escalates. And then it gets really crazy in its escalation as the house is like not doing the get out sort of thing. It's just like violently attacking people with kitchen appliances. And then the people are like, fuck this. And then they leave. They go to a friend who was in the media. And then the media arrives with cameramen. They're going to document the haunting inside this house. And again, the movie never like gets into like the music never ramps up. It just like it feels like you're watching the most natural drama in the world, but involves like men just like looking down at a boiling pot of spaghetti and just putting their hand right into it. And then holding their hand in there, and then they start screaming, and then everyone's like pulling their hand out and goes, I don't know what happened. I was just looking at the water. And then suddenly this priest arrives with like 8 orphan children out of the woods saying, oh yeah, we're just hitchhiking, and we usually stay here every year when we go on this trip. I didn't know that anyone lived here now. Is that a problem? Oh no, come on inside the house and we'll all hang out inside the haunted house as things start going buggy and the house starts working through the teenage daughter. And it was a total surprise, a pleasant surprise. And I would love to see this like in a proper restoration with some better subtitles. But it's a peculiar one. But this is to me kind of why Ghoul Schools can be a good thing, because you find something that you're like, we're not expecting.
You're looking for the surprise, Hager.
I'm looking to expulse that demon at a meeting of joyous death. Yes.
I think one of these biggest surprises is that Louis Buñuel has a son named Juan Louis Buñuel.
It's just like it's the opposite of finding out about Anthony Perkins.
Yeah, it's like a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Juan Louis Buñuel. Mary. Oh.
Well, what do you got for me?
I got some stuff for you. Well, so you want to hear about some flesh sacks?
I beg your pardon?
You know about flesh and when they form into a sack?
You're gonna have to tell me a little bit more.
Hey, you ever heard of David Cronenberg?
Yes.
Did you know that he loves flesh and sacky things?
I know he likes to make way for the new flesh.
Make way for the new flesh. Well, I've heard that he loves flesh and things of the nature. You ever heard of Existenz? Capital X, capital Z.
Oh, that's where my copy of that went.
Oh yeah, I do have yours. It's on Amazon Prime too, actually.
Oh.
Look at that. So if any of the listeners out there,
I have not seen that movie in forever, in a day. How is it?
So here's the deal with Existenz.
Yeah.
I feel like
video games.
I feel like it's an old man statement against video games, where it's like these games are no good. They're gonna rot your brains, you kids.
It's Videodrome Redux.
Yeah, in like a 90s where it's like, you know what's hip now? Not the movies, the video games.
Yes.
You know, the Super Marios. What if it? I just imagine David Cronenberg. He doesn't talk like that, but if he did, he'd be like, you know, these kids. They're looking at their video games. Do you think
he was looking at Brandon Cronenberg and be like, he's just sitting around all day long. He's just playing video games.
Yeah.
I mean, what could that really do? Hey, there's a movie in that.
Yeah, he says, look, he's not even really here. He's just living it. The game is more real to him than real life. Play it, live it, kill for it, Jarrett. Here's the thing about Existenz. The flesh sack things are super awesome.
The nodes?
Yeah, like all that stuff. I mean, and that's just like typical
par
David
for the
Cronenberg.
course. Yeah.
So he's like, you know what would be a cool video game if you had this big. Hey, what are you doing back there? My cat's in here. If you had this big fleshy sack thing that was a video game, and you played it by plugging it into above your butt, just right into your spine, just right above your butt, Jarrett.
Yeah.
You just plug it right in there. And you get ports put in. Dudes like Willem Dafoe will do it for you for for free.
Oh shit!
No problem.
That was Willem Dafoe in that. See, I didn't really know who that was when I watched it.
Under the character name Gas.
Yes.
Because he works at a gas station.
Yeah.
So he'll put a port in.
See, I remember that character, but I didn't remember it was Willem Dafoe. It's kind of like I didn't know who Willem Dafoe was when I watched Speed 2, but I always thought, oh, he'd be a really good Joker. But then, but then it turned out he'd be a better Green Goblin.
Oh, what about a better Brad Dourif?
No,
not possible.
Not possible.
Not possible.
Have you watched a Brad Dourif movie?
I have one lined up here. They were actually hard to find. I had to install this fucking thing that I thought was a little questionable on my Fire Stick.
Like a flesh pod?
Yeah, it's this flesh pod called Tubi. Because I was looking on that like Just Watch thing. I was like, because I was just trying to find Brad Dourif movies that were easily accessible, and they were all popping up on this Tubi thing. And I was like, that seems like a scam, whatever it is. But I don't know. There's a bunch on there, so I'm gonna try to get one in tomorrow or tonight. Well, little Brad Dourif. There's one from famed director Rolf Kanefsky, which I'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
Anyways, Existenz. You got these fleshy sacks. You plug into the mainframe. You hack the overdrive. You're in a virtual reality. What's the point of the game, Jarrett? You don't know. You got to play to find out. What happens when things get crazy? Things get crazy. Just go with it. It's just a game, man. But the game is real. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
The game is real, man. I think Existenz it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I like all the Cronenberg stuff, like all the video games getting plugged into people's spines. That's all really cool. I think there's a few things, though, where it kind of gets lost in itself. It kind of, like, bounces around a little bit, and you get a few jumps. And I don't know if that's, like, supposed to be intentional, like, as a comment on video games. I don't think it is. But sometimes you get like some jumps in logic, and Jude Law is like goes from A to B to Q, and you're like, what are you doing, Jude Law? What you doing out there? And like Jude Law too. I'm not a huge Jude Law guy either. So watching him run around, I was like, I wish Willem Dafoe was the lead heartthrob in this, not Jude Law. You do get
that's a different movie.
That is a different movie. It is. You get a gun that's made out of teeth and shoots teeth.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So like the tooth gun and the flesh sacks, all the Cronenberg-y things, those are all very cool. The video game thing itself, it's like, yeah, I get it. People get lost. I mean, it's just like them cell phones. Am I right, Jer? People get lost in video games, but I don't know. That kind of part of it, I was like, I guess that's what happens when you get old. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound what you think of when you think of
yeah, pretty much.
Existence?
That sounds like a confirmation of how I felt about that movie, like,
years ago,
15 years ago, whenever I first seen it in my early days of finding and tracking down Cronenberg movies.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be a completionist, watch it.
Yeah,
and you'll get like it's not like a bad watch by any means, but I wouldn't watch it again. I would just rewatch Videodrome.
Oh yeah. All day long.
You know what else I would rewatch? Forbidden Zone, Alien Abduction, aka Alien Abduction.
No, you wouldn't.
Intimate Secrets.
No,
I wouldn't.
Why you turning the Ghoul School into a house of your lies?
Well, it's part of the. It's a sex movie, Jarrett.
Yeah.
So.
And we know how you feel about that.
Yeah, but the softcore stuff I don't mind because it's like. It's tasteful. It's not like too in your face. Do you know what I mean?
No plumbing shots.
No, well, I don't know. I don't like the aggressive sexual things, or like when people with mental disabilities are raping farm people.
Wow.
Like, you're
such a prude.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you should watch Ghostland and tell me what you think of problematic villains.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, the Forbidden Zone, Alien Abduction it's a softcore porno. You have this group of women who meet up at a sauna and they're like, man, we've had crazy weeks. And it's like, yeah, I had a crazy week too. And the other person's like, man, I had a weird one also. So they all get to tell their stories. And it's basically kind of like an anthology story where it's like one woman was like, oh yeah, it was crazy. I was in like medieval times and this lady came and me and her had like the most loving, passionate night. And it was awesome. And you're like, cool. And then it goes to the next person. It's like, yeah, there was this guy and he was jogging and I followed behind him. And I can usually keep up to joggers, but he was way faster than me. So I followed him. And then we had like the most intimate, passionate night. And everyone's like, oh, that's weird. You just chase some guy down and then, okay, whatever, keep going. And then you have another lady. She tells her story. It's like, yeah, it was just some really like suave guy. And they all tell these stories about these intimate, passionate nights, these intimate secrets, but they turn out, Jared, to be alien abductions.
What?
And this alien needs to reproduce for his species, I guess. And so he needed to find out what women want, Mel Gibson style.
Right.
So he brought him in, and they got to like live out their deepest fantasies. This is what I'm into now.
Yeah.
Jarrett, this is the point I'm at in this Creeptober. This thing was 70 minutes long.
Yep.
Which was ideal for me.
Was it on YouTube?
Yes, it is on YouTube.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it's on YouTube. It's 70 minutes long. I watched it over the span of I think 3 days. 20 minutes at a time. Just whenever I was on the toilet. And it was it fits a niche. It fits a niche for sure. Is it a good movie? No. But you do see some ladies in the sauna if you're into that kind of thing.
Right. And
I know you're into that kind of thing.
Some bathing beauties.
Some bathing beauties. I mean, the other thing about this is like, it's, what was my Letterboxd review? Something about questionable consent. Because it is kind of questionable. Like all these women get tricked into having sex with this alien guy. So it's kind of like.
It's the oldest story in the world.
It is like getting tricked into doing it, but it's also kind of like, oh, so did he rape them? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't. That's above my pay grade.
I think I need to make a mixtape of all the times you've said that word on this show tonight.
Did he rape them? I think I'm going to say that once more tonight.
Oh, good.
At least once more. So, I watched another alien movie by Rolf Kanafsky.
Okay.
It's called There's Nothing Out There. Have you ever heard of this thing?
I have.
Yeah, so I remember I heard about it and then it sounded cool, but after watching it, I was like, I don't really understand what like it was fine. I'll talk about what it was, but I was like, I don't remember why this popped up on my radar. Like, is it supposed to be some kind of big thing? Or
well, no.
What do you know?
Well, I know exactly where you would have heard about it because he was interviewed on a podcast that we listened to.
Oh, and they just brought it up? He
was interviewed because it was being released by Vinegar Syndrome. It just got released on Blu-ray in the last year or so.
So this will be one of the ones that they're like, it's really good. You should give it a shot.
No, they were just like, yeah, it's a good time. And you were down with it because it's aliens.
I was down with it because it was aliens. It's like it fits my brand of interests, but I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone else. It's a bunch of teens that go out to a cabin, and then you get this big kind of noodly alien thing that comes to like tear them up. For what it is, you actually do get a couple decent like kill scenes like that. I was like, ooh, that's cool. Like you get a decap scene that like, I mean, it's not like the grisliest shit you ever seen, but I was like, I wasn't expecting that to see it. Like you just see a head get cut off. I was like, cool, baby. So the alien's there in the woods and it's basically just stalking these people, but the people they're pretty chudly. It's like dudes that are like, but babe, it's going to hurt if you don't do it. Like those kinds of dudes. And they're like, aw. Except there's one guy who like has no girlfriend and he's kind of your hero because he's just listening to people get down for like 2 nights and he's really sick of it. But then he sees the alien, so he's trying to protect himself.
Right.
But no one really believes him. So he's out there and like the chud dudes, the bros, they kind of go at odds with him. They're like, I was getting down there, man. One guy gets thrown out of a window. It's pretty gnarly. Jer. There's nothing out there. What do I have? Long butts. Yeah, there's a lot of scenes of actually there's one like the lead lady in this. She goes for a little swim and then she's in a bikini for about half an hour. So I know some people are fans of those things. You get a cat scare. There's no animal cruelty in this thing. Yeah, maybe it is a good time. Maybe it is, Jer. Maybe it's a good time. The alien like also shoots lasers into people's eyes and then like possesses them, which is like the power gradient isn't made explicitly clear. So you're not sure what this dude is capable of, this alien dude, but you know he's there to fuck shit up. Kind of like us. You don't know what we're capable of, but you know that when we come up to the scene, we're going to fuck some shit up. Are you interested in There's Nothing Out There, Jared? It's available for free on YouTube.
Vaguely, but not. It's again. It's not going to probably make my. I don't even know if it would make my cut of like 300 movies now that my horror pool has reached. Yeah. Every year it gets bigger. I watch like more, and they just gets bigger. But I don't know about this one.
Would you watch any of Rolf Kanafsky's movies? Party Bus to Hell?
No.
Erotic Adventures of the Invisible Man?
No.
Oh, Misadventures. Sorry.
Oh, geez.
Sorry.
RJ, that changes everything.
Alien Erotica?
No.
A Manual Through Time, Emmanuel's Forbidden Pleasures. So this dude's into alien porn.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he didn't do the Forbidden Zone, funnily enough.
Somehow.
So anyways, there's nothing out there. I mean, there's not much to it, if you want to put it that way.
I remember the interview kind of seeming a little depressing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a dude who was like trying his best.
It's the real story of what filmmaking actually is. That's
Sure.
what I remember.
Sure. Yeah. Well, anyways, do you have any movies to talk about, or are you done?
Oh, I've got movies, RJ.
Okay, well, hit some.
Mountaintop Motel Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
It's alliterative.
Okay.
It's very southern. It's about a woman who's mad. She's insane, and she kills when she goes insane. Her own daughter even. And
okay.
She's on medication now. She's all better until she's not.
Okay.
And then people keep coming to stay at the motel, and then she starts killing them. We've seen this movie before.
Have we?
I think so.
Which one?
Psycho?
Oh, Psycho 2?
Yeah, well, no. That one's all about like when's he going to massacre somebody. And he just takes a shovel to someone's head. It's awesome.
I follow.
Yeah. So this is, again, this is a Vinegar Syndrome release. So that's 2 in a row. This one was a blind buy because I pre-signed up for this pack that came with Night Beast. And we all know Night Beast. We all know we all know his deal. And this just came along with it. And I'm like, well, it could go either of one of 2 ways with Vinegar Syndrome. It could be a pleasant surprise, or it could just be there. And it was just there. I don't know. There's this.
Well, what happened?
I don't know. Like
nothing good.
People getting drugged down into like this crawl space beneath these motel rooms, and then people keep going down into the pit and being killed. It's very drug out. There's a snake biting people's faces, and they're like getting poisoned up. And then there's there's something to talk about. Some real RJ content. There's this greasy dude with a mustache.
Oh, ooh!
He picks up these 2 fine young hitchhikers, and it's just kind of assumed, hey, I'm going to get the hotel room, and you 2 join me. And they're like, okay.
Sure, why not?
And
is it just for a nice night in?
Yeah.
Listen to a podcast?
Listen to some podcasts here in 1981.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's just played for like, that's normal, and that's weird. And but then people just get, and then she's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And while she's in the bathroom, crazy lady comes up from the floor, kills her dead, cuts her face wide open with a sickle. Because remember me talking about Scythe Man last week when I was talking about the corruption of Chris Miller? Well, this is sickle-based deaths. People getting sickles in the faces and in the body. But it never really takes off, though. It never really sings. It was such a wonderful title. And
well, that's often the case, no?
It's true.
Yeah.
I did watch a kind of a documentary. It's called Terror in the Isles. It's more of a like clip show compilation of horror's best as of 1986 or something like that, it was fun to watch. It's hosted by Donald Pleasance, who says strange, morbid things, and then he turns his attention to you, the viewer. And then Nancy Allen shows up, and she does the exact same thing, and they're all in this like big fake theater watching these clips all together, and they're just responding to all the horror movies that people love, you know. And so you get to see you get compilations of I'm always a fan of that effect where you have like the same beat from movies played simultaneously back to back over and over again, like someone closing a door as they're running away from something, and it's always like this weird sort of effect that it has, like being like, you know, people opening doors, closing doors, someone trying to bash through a door, a jump scare, and you just get the same energy, hands coming through walls. So it's just, I don't know, it kind of reminded me that, hey, sometimes horror movies can be good, and it doesn't have to be all poor, sloppy movies that nobody's ever heard of.
Questionable, you know. I mean, some movies are good. Some movies are alien erotica.
Yeah,
if you've ever heard of that, that is.
Yeah. The Terror in the Isles thing. It was just a bonus feature on a Halloween 2 Blu-ray. So. I had never seen it. It's kind of well regarded, but then I think a lot of people I follow, no one really likes it that much. But it was perfect to have on while, like, you know, looking at things online.
Like a magazine?
Yeah,
like a magazine movie.
Well, no one buys magazines.
Well, no one you know.
Yeah,
I saw a guy yesterday have a magazine.
Yeah,
real life one.
Was it rolled up in his back pocket?
It was, right beside his pack of cigarettes that were rolled up in his sleeve.
Yeah.
Cool dude.
Was it a Playboy?
It depends in what sense you mean.
That was the title of the magazine.
Oh, I don't know what the magazine was,
I
but
see.
the gentleman was a Playboy.
I see.
You see?
I understand now.
What else you got?
I watched House of Whipcord, directed by Pete
That sounds
Walker.
cool.
Remember me talking about Pete Walker, saying how you don't?
No.
He's I don't know. He's made a lot of really not great movies, and but I've got 8 of them to watch. So this was number 4, and I had high hopes because this seems to be the one people seem to like more than others. And yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. This is where the one Instagram post about people wanting a return to corporal and capital punishment comes from. There's a real RJ mindset of that.
In which sense?
Puritan conservatism.
Well, I mean, it depends on how far you take such values.
Like capital punishment, how far one takes that?
Well, I mean, it depends on how far you would take it. I mean, if it was... Depends on the person. If it was you, I would say do it right now.
Sure.
But if it was someone else, I'd be like, well, maybe we'll see those DNA results first.
So House of Whipcord.
Sure.
It stars this really lousy actress. I'm not sure if she's actually French or trying to do a French accent, but it's very hard to understand what she's saying. And she runs afoul of a man that is named Mark.
Okay.
Marquis de Sade. Like that's his name. It's like Mark de Sade. And it's like, oh, that's funny. Ha ha ha. But it turns out, yeah, he's a weirdo who takes this girl and he drops her off at this like private women's prison. That isn't a women's prison because this girl hasn't committed any crimes, but there's this like senile blind old judge who's constantly sentencing people to imprisonment, but by this mad old warden woman who runs it and just takes this opportunity to correct young women. And
correct them how?
Through starving them, keeping them locked up, strip them of their makeup and hair and their clothing and make them more just burlap sacks. And then when they break the rules, they get whipped.
Oh, and that's the whipcord?
Yes. And then if they don't behave enough, then they just get hung to death. All nice and legal.
Jeffrey Epstein style?
Yeah. So the movie's just like, it's a women in prison movie, which was a surprise. There's a certain meanness to everything. All the actors are just relishing in their roles. They don't overplay it either. But yeah, I don't know. It was, as far as a movie like this would go, I thought it was better than a lot of the Jess Franco women in prison movies I've watched, and I don't know, it was fun watching it because it wasn't like particularly like cruel either. It didn't like have prolonged scenes of torture. It was just kind of, it bordered on. It wasn't quite goofy, but it was pleasant. As pleasant as a movie about people being held against their own will in a castle, and then when you think they're just about to escape, they get brought back by a truck driver who thinks, oh, this is just a home for old people and they'll help you out, poor girl. And then it takes some dark twists. It has not neat resolutions, but yeah, not too bad. And it's got also has a good poster.
Well, I'm glad you found something that you enjoyed a little bit.
Just a little bit in this world.
Just a little bit. Like, a little bit. I was going to say something and then I forgot.
No, that's fine.
You ever been there?
I got a stinker to talk about.
Oh, a good one?
A good stinker.
Sure.
Called The Beast Must Die.
It's a cool title.
It is a cool title. It's about werewolves. A werewolf. And it opens up with this black man running through the forest and he's being hunted. And you're like, whoa, what's this all about? But then suddenly he's caught, and then it turns out, oh, it's just like a practice run because he's like one of the greatest hunters in the world.
Oh, shit.
And he's being called in to track down and locate a werewolf in this castle. And it's somebody in the castle who's the werewolf, and he has to figure it out. The movie opens up with a narrator saying, can you figure out who the werewolf is? At the end of the film, we'll ask you, and you'll have to decide. And it's like, oh.
Did you figure it out?
No, because this movie's the shits. It's so boring. Severin put this out on Blu-ray in a box set, and they kind of just dumped it on there because I don't think they had very good elements to work with. So this thing, the picture's not great, and there's like bad scan lines kind of on the outer edge of the screen too the whole time. But yeah, this movie is just not worth even salvaging. It's so boring and uninteresting because there's always just like, you could be the werewolf because of this. But then it's like, but I have an explanation for that. Damn. And then they do that over and over and over and over again until it gets to the end at the dinner party. It's like, well, have you deduced who the werewolf is? And then a clock gets superimposed over the screen, and the narrator comes back. Have you been able to guess who the werewolf is? You have 30 seconds to make your decision. And then it picks up.
So much fun.
And then it's just this lady who turns to a werewolf who like attacks some people, and then they shoot at it. It escapes. And then he further tracks it down, kills the werewolf, but not before being bitten. And then he goes back inside the house and shoots himself dead. And that's the end. That's the end of the movie. You don't have to ever see this thing. It's got a cool poster, cool title, but man, they trick you. That's how they get you.
But the real question is, at any of those points, were you able to guess who the real werewolf was?
I didn't care. If that was if it was possible to solve it, the movie just is constantly giving you false information, and then when it does turn out, you're like, oh, that's it, huh? It's like that. I'm waiting for the movie to finish at that point.
Well, that's a bummer. I mean, I thought you loved interactive things.
I thought so too.
Just sad.
Yeah.
Sad, Jarrett.
What do you want to talk about now?
Hey, Jarrett, you ever heard of Robert Zombo?
No, but I am aware of Robert Zombie.
Rob Zombie? Well, here's the thing, Jarrett.
I believe you watched his trilogy.
I watched a trilogy of films this last week.
You did.
I think I've mentioned before my history with Rob Zombie and his haunted house of horrors, which consisted mostly of physically strange people, is the only way I can put that, I guess. I don't know how to describe the people that were in his haunted house. They were there for a reason.
They're real, RJ.
They were cast for a reason. Yes, they were real people. But it was also like they were just in like bathtubs of like shit. And then you're like, ew. You're like, this isn't scary, but I'm a little grossed out. And I guess that's part of his aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So Rob Zombie, I've seen those Halloween movies, but I never watched the trilogy that is House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and this new movie, Three from Hell.
Brand new.
Came out like what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, just this month it was released in various platforms.
So having watched it, I realized I've seen a House of a Thousand Corpses sometime in my life.
Yeah.
When did this movie come out? In 2002 or let me see, 2003?
Yeah.
So I think I saw it on TV on Showtime in 2004, maybe, or something like that. And I remember watching it and I was like, what is this? Why are these things happening? How can I stop this from happening? So I watched it again. And I think, what do you think I thought of these Rob Zombie movies, Jared?
I don't know, RJ. You tell me.
All right. So I think I see why they're very popular. I
won't go so far as calling them so popular.
No, but I mean, they have a following.
They have fans.
They have fans. I see why. I see his pull. I get it. I think House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects are different, very different. So House of a Thousand Corpses kind of reminded me of, so it's like his Texas Chainsaw movie, but it's filthier and it's more like kind of like coked up because of all the stuff that he plays around with, where it's just like the way he edits things together, or whoever was editing it, where it'll cut from like one angle to like sideways and like with a blue filter on, and then it'll cut back, and then it'll cut to like a music video for like 2 seconds. It's like, whoa, like Caligula is playing. I actually didn't mind that stuff. I was like, well, that's different. I was like, okay.
Because House of a Thousand Corpses has like the neat like opening thing with like this like silent film sort of horror stuff that he's just made up that looks quite neat. And then you're like, oh, I want more of that. but you don't get it.
Well, what you get is, I think, like the extreme version of like a horror video game. Like, I think that's how this movie ends. Like, it just reminded me of,
Oh man,
like,
that
indie
ending.
horror video games. So House of a Thousand Corpses, it's like Texas Chainsaw. It's
2.
dirtier. Yeah, Texas Chainsaw 2. It's dirtier and it's like on coke. And it's like I said, I actually didn't mind the editing things because I was like, that's different. I was like, I wasn't expecting that here. And you have your buddy Sid Haig in the Captain Spaulding role, used sparingly, I think, which is good. And you have the family and all the stuff that happens. Like, I will say, as a horror thing, I think it's pretty effective. Where, like, when he comes down, like, wearing the other people, and it's the person who is one of the girls, like, caught up, I was like, oh, that's sad. I was like, so I guess that's horror stuff. It's making me feel bad in a sense. You know what I mean? So, like, I think that, and then, like, the Rainn Wilson Fishman, I don't really like that kind of stuff because that grosses me out, but I guess that's the point. So I was like, I don't know about this and that. And then you do have like a weird mix of like, you're kind of like, you're like, what are these people? Who is this? So you get all these things kind of play out and you're like, okay. And then you get like the ending and it's way different. You got Dr. Satan in there, Jarrett. You got that head man. And like, that's the part that reminds me of kind of like a video game, you know? And it's kind of like what you're talking about, where people get picked up and then they get taken back to a similar place, like Texas Chainsaw also. Not the original one, but like, what was that in one of the remakes where it opens with someone who just got away from the house and is now getting brought back or something like that? You ever seen those remakes?
No.
I think one is getting a revival now. Everyone's like, this remake's pretty good. Anyways, House of Thousand Corpses, I think it has, it's like I said, I see why he has a following and a fan base. I think there's elements there in this thing. It's just my mileage with Rob Zombie, I think, is going to be different from other people, if that makes sense. What do you think of House of a Thousand Corpses?
I've never liked the movie.
Okay.
I just don't like the direction it goes. It feels, I don't know. The filmmaking is just not there yet.
He really goes for it though, Jer.
Nah, but he doesn't have the chops to like pull it off very well. It just feels like a cheap movie.
Oh, well, I can get there. So Devil's Rejects, not that one, but
the Empire Strikes Back of the zombie trilogy.
Of the zombie trilogy, exactly. So I think, like, I didn't mind House of a Thousand Corpses. I was like, I see the merit to this thing. It's not what I look for in horror movies, but I can see why other people appreciated it. Devil's Rejects was a little bit more in line with something that I think I would like. It still had like some of the Rob Zombie flourishes. I was kind of like, well,
motherfucker.
Fuck a doodle doo. Yeah.
Hey, did you RJ? Did you take the corner with Bill Moseley?
No. So I didn't even mention. I don't like Bill Moseley. I don't like him. Okay, and he is at the forefront of all three of these movies. So I'm not a Bill Moseley guy. I can get past that because, like, one thing is Sid Haig is really awesome. He's not even in Thousand Corpses that much, but Sid Haig is cool. I like seeing him. And even the side characters, they're all pretty decent. I'm not a big Bill Moseley guy. I never will be. And even in this, it's just like, okay, so he's just Texas Chainsaw 2 guy, but not as like, but a little bit like that.
He always reminds me of Silver Fox.
Yeah, a little bit. They actually look pretty close.
Yeah.
Like they look very similar. So Devil's Rejects, like, I think it's got better. It's a better made movie. I think like he kind of narrowed in on things a little bit more, but there's still some kind of there's still certain things where I'm like, I think you're getting too far away from what you want here, because they're both like full 2-hour movies. And
fuck, is that true? Is House of a Thousand Corpses 2 hours long?
Let me show you right now. Let me see. House of a Thousand Corpses. No, it's only 90 minutes.
Yeah, because I know Devil's Rejects is long.
Devil's Rejects is 107 minutes.
Yeah, it's definitely a longer movie.
Yeah,
it's also got it's got an incredible I think it's got like a 3-hour long making of
Devil's Rejects.
Yeah,
and
it goes through everything.
That'd be interesting to watch.
Because I know, and I think the first Halloween remake also has I think it's like 4 hours long.
Yeah,
and then he made Halloween 2, and then it's oh.
Speaking of Halloween 2, I'll get to 3 from Hell in a second.
Oh man, I can't wait. Well, I watched 31, and I shared my thoughts last time. So Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, no, I didn't mind Devil's Rejects. It's kind of like good. I said,
it's his best movie. I think.
Yep.
I think it's his best. It's got stuff. It's I remember rewatching it and being but watching it no, this is it's still as best as he's gotten overall. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's flaws, but it's still I wish he would have gone further. I think even Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's there, and so that's what I mean. I'm not what you would call someone who. I don't think anyone would have thought I would have been a fan of Rob Zombie. So House of a Thousand Corpses, it was fine. I didn't mind it. There's things I like. Devil's Rejects, I liked more even because I was I was this is more in line with what I would want. And it did, like you said, it has its own little flaws to it. There's certain things that I think stretched, so that one stretches a little bit too far where there's things with the side characters that just really prolong the movie. And you're kind of you don't need this in here, man. There's that scene where Bill Moseley goes out to get guns and stuff. And it's you don't even need any of this in it. You get some brutal violence in it, but that's already in all of these movies anyways.
And how about that ending?
The Devil's Rejects?
Yeah.
So I like the ending. I wish it was filmed different though.
Oh, that weird stop, weird freeze framey slow-mo?
Well, not even that. Kind of. So there's one thing I don't really like about the Rob Zombie movies is I don't think whoever is behind the camera has a great eye for. It doesn't flow the way I would want it to flow. So the one big prop I'll give Rob Zombie is I actually do really like the way he uses his music, which I could see other people making fun of. But the big one was in House of a Thousand Corpses, the Walton Goggins confrontation scene.
Yeah.
I like that he cuts out all the other audio and just plays music. I actually think that's really good because it's that's what I want more than anything else.
I'm trying to remember which is it, House or Devil's Rejects that has the really bad CGI fire.
I mean, I think all three of these movies have bad CGI.
Well, there's one where it's it's the big when is it Junior when he's breaking
Devil's
them out?
Rejects.
Yeah, that. I remember that being really wow. I don't remember looking so bad before, but now it's they're clearly not in danger.
they both have CGI fire, but you're thinking of Devil's Rejects where Tiny goes
that's
in there. Yeah. So. Yeah, the CGI is something else, but I actually really like his use of music. It's not playing to the irony crowd. I think it actually fits and it speaks to him too. I was I like this. So I liked how he used it in Thousand Corpses, and I do like the ending, how it's used in Devil's Rejects. I just wish I wish someone was behind the camera and kind of showed it a little bit better, because it's kind of it cuts here and it cuts there and then it cuts to those slow motion things, and that's fine. But I think when you do those things where you cut all the other audio and you just play a 6-minute fucking song, the reason you do that is so that you have this isolated, consistent audio. I think you should have that for your filming too. I would have preferred it wouldn't have to be one continuous shot, but I would have liked a little bit more where you stayed with it longer. It just cuts around too much. Mm-hmm. That's my own thing.
Yeah.
I realize that, but that's what I would have wanted more. So Devil's Rejects, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you were into this stuff, watch both of them. And
you
your mileage a little vary.
You have to watch both. I just House just seems like such an undeveloped movie. It just feels like it could be so much better. And then so I have not seen 3 from Hell. Uh-huh. I'm afraid to, because I already kind of know what we're going to get, because I've read people talking about it and none of it seems good. But
Okay, so
Go on.
I watched this with a friend, and the friend really likes the first two.
Yep.
And he doesn't like 31. He thought 31 was a big pile of shit too.
Yep.
So he went into this with like real low expectations, and then at the end he was like, you know what? He's like, I thought it was pretty good. He's like, compared to what 31 was.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I haven't seen 31. But like, so again, there's like elements to it that are good.
Does he like Lords of Salem?
I don't think so. No. I think he said he's like, I know I'm on a minority because most people like that one, but I might be misspeaking here.
That one's it's visually his most ambitious, but he just needs to stop writing his own movies. That's like that's a big problem with him but now it's also he's lost money. Like he doesn't have, it seems like, the resources anymore to like get where he would have gotten, which is
what 3 from Hell feels like.
Yeah, okay. That's okay. Continue.
Yeah, that's what this feels like. And like I get it too, where it seems like because there's that joke that fucking Bill Moseley tells all the time about doing this movie.
Hey Sid.
Hey Sid. And it's like that's what this feels like, because I bet for like the last like 12 years people were like, when are you going to make a sequel to that? And it's like, that movie doesn't need a sequel. Or like there doesn't need to be a third one. This thing like is different as Thousand Corpses is to Devil's Rejects. Like, you know, there's similarities, but they're different. Like they're very different stories. As different as those two, 3 from Hell is another completely different thing. So this Sid Haig shouldn't be in this. It bums you out immediately. He's only in the first 5 minutes of it, and you're just like, you see him and you just like, we just got bummed out. We're like, oh man, he doesn't look good. It's like that dude should be at home sleeping, not like filming this fucking Rob Zombie movie. Like, I'm sure he was only there for one day and did like an hour of acting.
And he probably wanted to do it too, but
he looks like he's super thin, and he just doesn't look. He doesn't look like Sid Haig, you know. But hey, guess what, Jarrett? They found a replacement in Richard Brake.
Mm-hmm.
That's Joe Chill, and you know he's in Mandy, and he's in 31, and he's in Halloween. So he's the new Sid Haig.
Allegedly.
For this movie.
I don't get it at all.
For all intents and purposes.
People are losing their mind with this guy, but it's like, have standards really fallen that low?
I don't know. I mean, I liked him in that Asylum Blackout S. Craig Zoller movie, but he doesn't really do much in that. He's just kind of there. That movie I also just liked in general. Right. So 3 from Hell, they're alive.
Right.
Because
they survived and are in jail.
They just are, and then they're in jail for 10 years. So you have a natural progression of time.
I see.
And then what happens is like I don't know, like this movie, some of the suspension of disbelief, it's like, I don't care. Like, I don't get hung up on stuff that much, but there's certain things in here you're like, that's a little goofy. So it's like they acknowledge that Bill Moseley's like this dangerous serial killer, and then it's like, you know what? We're gonna put him out on one of those pit crews of guys like working outside of the jail. And then guess what happens, Jarrett?
He gets out.
And it's kind of just like, and you're kind of just like, why would they do that? That's a weird thing to do. So like he goes out there and Richard Brake breaks him out, because guess what, Jarrett? Richard Brake's his brother. One of his other brothers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then so they have to go and get Sherry Moon, and she goes like, you can tell that they're like, you know what's popular now is Harley Quinn and like Crazy Girls. So she's like full crazy in this. Like, and like they actually even make note of it. They're like, well, she's been in jail for so long. She's strange, man. She's different. And you're like, okay, but I don't know. I didn't really get it, like how crazy she was. You get some art house stuff in this, Jer, kind of like the White Horse in Halloween 2.
Oh no!
So she sees bunnies or a cat in like a sewer, some shit. It's like a ballet, and it's like a person in a cat suit dancing. You're like, and you're just like, okay. And then I don't know if you know this, Jared, but what happens is they flee to Mexico.
Yep.
And they run afoul of luchador mafioso type guys.
Oh no.
So then the movie becomes that for a while, where it's them versus luchador. This movie too is like, the first hour is super different from the second hour. So this is a full 2 hours, 1 hour and 111 minutes. First hour is like a prison break movie, and then you get like the one thing that kind of threw me off too is it's like stylized like 70s. Like the other two movies didn't feel like they were like they had the feel of those things, but it didn't seem like pushed on you. This one, like one of the sheriff, whoever he is, like his hairstyle is so ridiculous. You're just like, it's like, okay, I'm sure there's people who had that hairstyle, but and well, actually clicking on his picture, he has this in real life. So, okay, I guess I take that back. This
you
guy's
owe him
real.
an apology.
Jeff Daniel Phillips, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you at him.
Yeah, I'm sorry, brother. But yeah, like he's kind of like goofy in that sense. Did you know Clint Howard is in this movie, Jer?
Now I know. I didn't.
Now you know. Yeah, Clint Howard's in here. He makes an appearance. And then it's kind of funny. Like after this movie was done, we watched like 5-10 minutes of like it was almost like the preview of the making of for this thing. And they were talking about how like Rob Zombie himself was like, yeah, I didn't want to like do the same gags and same jokes from all the other movies, but there was stuff like having watched them all in a row, I was like, but he did. Like there's the like in House of a Thousand Corpses, they don't drive because one of them has night blindness, and then that gets brought up in this, and I was like, I know that's a pull, but you're doing the same stuff, Rob Zombie. Like that's intentional that you included that in there. And then there's just stuff like, I don't know, man. There's a few things here and there. You're kind of like, why is this in here? Why is this included? You get CGI blood and CGI fire. The CGI in this movie is real bad, man. Yeah. Real bad. So you get like a lot of like shooting people, and there's like and like CGI blood squirts out of them. And you're kind of like, why do you even need that? You could have just not had that, and it would have been fine, I think. I think.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. So your mileage might vary.
No.
I wouldn't expect you, Jared Duncan, would get much out of this, but I know you'll have to watch it one day.
Well, one day. It'll be on Shudder or Netflix or
It'll
something.
be on Shudder, yeah. I'm sure, in a year or two.
I'll save myself $23 and buy some like Blind Buy Vinegar Syndrome piece of shit instead.
And yeah, I don't know. I think the first two are worth watching. The third one too, if you're like really into them, you might get something out of it. I didn't get much out of it, but you know, whatever. Luchadors.
But you did it. You watched Devil's Rejects.
I did it, man. I've apparently seen all but 3 of Rob Zombie's movies now. Lords of Salem 31 and El Super Beasto.
Oh, don't watch. I've never watched. I actually tried watching that. I tapped after like 2 minutes. Nope.
I would maybe watch Lords of Salem, but that's it. I'm not going to watch 31.
That would be 31 you can just not have to watch. And I used to have to watch 3 from Hell.
Yes, you do.
Yeehaw.
You should one day eventually. Okay. So that's my foray into Robert Zombo.
Some heavy lifting there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've never talked about those on the pod before.
No, now we have.
It's covered.
We also haven't talked about Lake of Dracula and Evil of Dracula.
Sounds cool.
Basically, the Japanese Hammer horror films. They feel like that, but they're also very Japanese. And the word that comes to mind to describe the feeling of watching these is cozy.
They were nice?
They're fine, inoffensive, unmemorable movies. Arrow put them out. It's like the Bloodthirsty trilogy. Mm-hmm. I watched the first one called Vampire Doll. And then the next year, Lake of Dracula, which is like an awesome title. And Evil of Dracula. A bit more generic. But I watched Vampire Doll last year, and it was the same kind of thing. We were just like, this is okay. This doesn't make me mad. This is it just happens. It doesn't do anything too surprising. And same with these two. I could barely tell you what the difference between the two of them are now. But if you need to put some ambient horror on and just like feel good about the world, I guess these are not too bad ways of doing that.
See, sometimes that's all you need though, especially during like the back end of Creeptober, when you're kind of just like, I really need a
breather.
Just anything that like you can just watch comfortably and be like, no problem.
Yeah. If I miss something,
No problem.
that's okay. I'm okay.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
I got a creep pick here.
Oh, a little creeper wreck.
Yeah, from Mr. Sanchez.
What did he recommend?
Trick or Treat from 1986. That movie that's got Ozzy Osbourne in it for a second, Gene Simmons in it for a second. Yeah, Trick or Treat. This was a surprisingly pretty good little movie.
Surprisingly pretty good little movie. That's pretty high praise from you.
It reminded me actually a lot of Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. It had the same kind of competence from like of an 80s horror kind of slasher. It doesn't have like a crazy body count or anything like that. So the story is about this poor kid. He's kind of a social reject at high school because he's really into metal. And his hero, this one particular rock musician, he actually graduated from his high school and he's coming back to perform, but the school doesn't want him to perform because he's got those illicit lyrics and he's real bad and he's in league with the devil because he's into metal.
That's cool though.
But then you find out one day as he's about to leave for school that his role model, his hero, died in a fire in a hotel room. And he's like, just what? Devastated. This is the worst thing. He swings by the radio station where Gene Simmons works, and he's like, hey, guess what I got here? I got the last demo he ever recorded. This is the only copy of it. Don't worry, you can take it and borrow it. You seem really like you need it. You need this right now, and you could listen to this record. And he goes and listens to the record. And this is like all amongst like him being bullied by jock assholes at high school. There's like this pretty girl, takes a little bit of sympathy on him, but things just aren't working out and he's getting more and more angry. He goes home, he listens to the record, he does a little bit of backwards masking, listening to it backwards, and it's talking to him. Because it turns out this rock musician, he really was in league with the devil, and he made some crazy pact involving like people burning alive in his hotel room while he kept sealing this deal so he could transfer his soul into a record, I guess, and start helping this kid and start putting bad thoughts into his head and like get revenge on the bullies, but then get revenge on all sorts of people until he's powerful enough to come back as some sort of like Freddy Krueger-esque supernatural being that just fucks people up left and right. So
does he?
A little bit. But this is a good little movie.
You liked it?
I did. It was
nice.
Good. Totally.
So you had a few good in the back end here.
A little bit. Yeah, we'll get there. We're getting through. I followed this up with Blood Pigs.
I mean, that doesn't sound like an RJ pick, but it does sound like a Jared pick.
It's not literal. This is the last of the Brian Poland movies, if you recall, the director of Cryptic Plasm, Bone Sickness, that sort of thing. So this is the last.
Right.
This was the last one for me. I almost turned this one off right away because I fucking hate like dudes with samurai swords hanging out in river bottoms fighting zombies and like fighting one another with like bandanas and sunglasses and bad goatees. And it's like the post-apocalypse, but like no effort or time is be put into like create atmosphere. On top of that, this movie was shot really badly with like a shitty camera. It was like rendered out badly because the whole movie stutters along, and it looks like shit. So I was just like real ready to check out. But, I started checking my emails. I started doing some other things and kind of looking over at it, taking a glance at me like, has this gotten any better? Because sometimes with Brian Poland, it's all about the ending. And that's when it redeems itself. And sure enough, Blood Pigs gets to the ending. And it is just like wild. It's wild practical effects. Homemade, homebrew. We're talking Don Dollar times 10. Going through going through the
that's pretty big comment.
The monster thing in this is so weird. I don't even know what it is, but it's really gross and terrifying. It seems like it's made of like stalks of human beings with plants, and it's like two guys kind of walking around inside of this like puppet, and people are just getting like violated and intestines being pulled out left and right. This is the thing. This is where Brian Poland sings. His actors suck. His story's not very good. shot for like, $5,000 on like consumer grade cameras. But when it comes time for the blood to flow and for like the gore and the effects, it's so cool. I love this stuff.
So this is like a new big guy for you, hey?
But I've watched all of his movies, and now I'm waiting for.
Oh, so you're done?
I'm done. Like he directed like these 2 crappy looking softcore things with vampire girls. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
But he's apparently working on his 5th film. I've heard called Septic, and he's been working on it for a while, I guess. But the day that hits, yeah, like the Tank, going septic. I don't know. We'll see. What does Brian Poland have in store? I mean, they're all labors of love. I'm sure he works his day job, and then on weekends he gets these little effects plans and ready for when everyone's around, so he can put these things together. I'll be there for it, man. I'm there.
So, Cryptic Plasm.
Yep.
And that's the one you think I should watch, right?
It's with understanding there's like an asterisk being like, I'm telling you what these types of movies are. These are like shot on video, lo-fi movies that like are made by like your friend. Like they're just like people like in town that make this, but there's something a little bit interesting with it, and then it gets to these ridiculous endings that are like, holy crap, this is like what I want from like a guy. It's like if you walked into a convention, like a horror convention, and you're walking around, you see table after table of these guys. They all look the same, and they've got probably tables filled with DVDs, and they all have the same fucking covers, and you know what they're going to be. They're going to be really unimaginative vampire, zombie, horror, torture shit. And then there'll be a Brian Poland, and he'll have like this movie. He's trying his best, and then it's like he doesn't quite have it because he's not a household name. He never will be. But his practical effects stuff is like, oh, you can't hate this.
I mean, what do you think? I'm gonna. You give me that one, I'll watch it.
Okay.
Give me that one, and I'll watch. You pick one of them.
Okay.
To watch,
all right.
and I'll watch
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay. I watched Highway to Hell. This stars Rob Lowe's brother, Chad.
Oh, cool.
Chad.
Chad
who I believe his like most notable thing was he was dying of AIDS on Life Goes On, a TV show that was on when you were just born, RJ.
Terrific.
Yeah. So I didn't know anything about this. This was a Kino Blu-ray that I bought like for like $5 on a clearance sale. Mm-hmm. This movie is literally about a guy and a girl. Mm-hmm. They take his pizza delivery car, and they're going to go to Vegas and go get married. They didn't tell their parents, and they're for some reason afraid that they're going to call the cops on them, and they're going to be stopped from getting married, even though they seem to be older than 18 years old. I don't know. But they're driving down the highway. They stop at a gas station. They're told, hey, make sure you don't fall asleep between the Joshua trees. And then that's exactly what happens. And now they're facing Hell Cop. That is the name of the villain of this.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it sure does. So Hell Cop, he shows up, and he steals this dude's girlfriend. And then he drives off, and they disappear. So guy goes back to the gas station saying, what the fuck just happened? This guy was all burnt up, and he just took my girlfriend and left. And he's like, well, it's actually the highway to hell. And if you go to sleep and wish your way through, you can transport through this gateway, and you will arrive literally on the highway to hell. So he does that. He jumps through, and now he's like in this big scenic desert, blue skies, and it's like the highway to hell. There's like undead denizens who are just like regular people, but they're all like the type of people who probably belong in hell. They're kind of around,
what types?
Like Ben Stiller playing two different characters.
God,
this is young Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller is like jacked in this movie. He's just like he looks like a little pro wrestler. He plays like a cook at a gas station, and then he shows up later on as like another type of goon. Jerry Stiller's in this as well. So we got Stillers coming out of everywhere.
Jerry Stiller.
Yeah, he shows up. There's this really cool gag in this. The Hell Cop, he has handcuffs. So there's these
like actual hands.
Big fleshy hands on chains, and you put them on. Oh, it's so neat. And then of course, like one of the ways she escapes, like she gets handcuffed to like the bar. She like grabs a pot of coffee and dumps it on the hand, and the hand lets go. It's pretty neat.
That sounds cool. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's like it's so dumb, but it's like that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's this whole thing that Satan wants virgin brides. And and so guy's girlfriend, she's a virgin still, and so he wants her. He meets a little like weird little kid that's like in hell, but he's like, I'm fine with this. Satan's my friend. He's like a dad, and but the kid's like the kid would be okay leaving hell. One thing leads to another. Gilbert Gottfried shows up as Hitler.
I mean, that's not far off from normal Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah. So he's there. He does a bit. And there's some cool demony stuff. This is it's nothing.
It sounds like you liked it.
It's okay. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it. I kind of like finding movies like this. It's very 1980s cultish. It's nothing great, but it's RJ. It's a fun movie.
Fun, you say?
Fun, I says.
What do you mean by fun?
You might like this. You'd be okay with this.
I'll put it in the watch list. It sounds cool.
Yeah. How many movies do you have left to talk about?
Who, me? I could potentially talk about potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, we're about equal then. You go ahead.
Okay, I'll hit you with my dark movies. You ever heard of A Blade in the Dark?
Yeah.
By Lamberto Bava, director of Demons and Demons 2.
Yes.
I imagine this is how you talk.
I watched this movie, and I don't really remember much about it.
That's not surprising. I was taken aback by a lot of people's 3-star reviews of this movie, and I was like, 2.5. just to undercut you a little bit.
Splitting those hairs.
Splitting the hairs.
A few years ago, I did keep a list of 3 stars is the new 2.5.
Yeah, that's this one fits in there. This is a giallo, and it is what you have. And a friend of the show, Ryan Nagel, pointed out the Jarrett comment, a lot of gialloing.
Yeah.
So the movie's got like a cool intro. It's like 3 kids, and 2 of them are bullies, and they're trying to force one kid to go down. Like, they find this abandoned house, and they're like, go down those stairs. Go see what's in the basement. And the kid's like, I don't really want to, man. And they like throw a ball down there, and they're like, go get the ball.
Right.
And he's like, no, I don't want to. And they're like, what are you, a female? And they're like, female. And they're just chanting female. And I was like, oh, it's a weird dig at this kid. So, and like, I mean, that comes up later in the movie, as some people would say problematic, because this one, I don't know. I don't think it's a trans person at the end. I think it's just someone who likes wearing a wig.
Okay.
So anyways, so the intro is pretty good because it's these kids and they're kind of like being shitty. The kid goes down, and then what you would imagine would happen, Jared, is kid screams, and then the ball gets thrown back up and it's covered in blood. And you're like, yeah. You're like, that's what I thought was going to happen. So then you cut to like an older version of one of these guys. And I got a little confused because it was kind of like what happened was it was a movie. And a guy is now a composer writing the score to this horror movie. And you're like, okay. That's like giallo-y stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But then it was kind of like elements from the movie are now coming into play in real life. And you're like, okay. So you have that. And it's basically this dude who's a composer playing like the piano. And there's like people who want to be around him. There's like some girl who's just like, I want to hang out with you. Let's have fun. And he's like, nah. And it's like, okay. You get a lot of red herrings, like people who might be the killer, people who aren't. But this movie, it's 110 minutes, and I would say 100 of those minutes are this guy walking around, kind of scratching his head, because he'll play on his piano for a while, and then he'll
what is
hear
this,
like
deep red?
Yeah, like it's frustrating in that sense because so much of it is just that movie. And this movie could have been 80 minutes and I probably wouldn't have minded as much. But because it's almost 2 hours, he'll like hear a bang outside and it's like the killer dragging a body away. And he'll come out and like he literally just like scratches his head. He's like, I wonder what's going on out here. And then he'll go from like the lawn to the basement and then he'll scratch his head down there. He's like, I wonder if someone was down here. Like that's this entire movie. So it's for that reason alone, this movie is not good. I can't recommend it to anyone. Yeah. It has one awesome kill in it. It's a bathroom kill where this lady gets a plastic bag wrapped around her head, and then like the guy puts a knife through her hand into the counter so she like can't move. I was like, whoa. I was not expecting that kind of level of brutality in this Giallo movie where nothing has happened for 50 minutes. So it's not good. It's very boring, but that one kill was pretty gnarly. So that was a Blade in the Dark. And then I watched Alone in the Dark.
With Martin Landau.
With not just Martin Landau, Jack Palance, Donald Pleasance.
And that big guy, that special guy. And his relationship with kids. So problematic, all of these movies. Dude, that guy had extreme strength as well, Jared. Of course he did.
The reason I watched these, not just because they were both dark movies, but when you look at the posters side by side, like on my list, it looks like the arm and the leg are coming down from the same body. And I was like, that's neat. Mm-hmm. Like the posters side by side. I was like, I like that. So Alone in the Dark, I think has one of, without a doubt, this Creeptober, it's got the best opening of any of the movies I've watched so far, because you get this wild, elaborate dream sequence with Martin Landau and Donald Pleasance, where it's like dream logic stuff. He comes into like a diner. He's like, I'll have the usual. And then they just serve him a giant fish. And then the kitchen's completely on fire. And then it starts raining, and they're like, welcome to hell. And he's like, he's just like quoting like scripture. And I was like, I started this thing and I was like, what is this? I was like, I had no idea this was like good. I was like, maybe it's just the opening scene here. I got to say, man, I think Alone in the Dark is actually a pretty good movie. I recommend this to people. I will recommend this to people. So you get this awesome intro. And then what you have is like, you get introduced to a Shutter Island type insane asylum where Donald Pleasance is like the head psychiatrist, and he's doing this new age thing. He's like, I kind of just let them do whatever they feel like. He's like, they're not bad guys. They just done bad things. You have the ringleader, Jack Palance, going around like talking through like labored breaths. And you're like, yeah, it's Curly. He's back for his gold. So he's out there. You have Martin Landau. He is a dude who quotes scripture and burns stuff. You have the gigantic man who his name is Fatty.
Yeah.
And he's known because he likes kids.
He likes children.
And that's one of the weird things in this movie is like you get a fake out where he's like alone with a kid.
Yeah.
And you're like, that guy is going to rape that kid.
Oh, I remember when I did watch this ages ago, I was taking those screenshots.
Because like it's happening, and it reminded me of you a little bit. Not because you do that stuff, but because of happiness, because you like it. And I was like, I bet when Jarrett watched this, he was laughing.
I was.
Because it's like happiness level. Like, hey, don't you want to like go upstairs? You can like go upstairs. And it's like, no, I don't want to go upstairs. And it's like, well, don't you want a cookie? And you're just like, oh God, like I didn't think it like, so that was the only like thing against this movie was that scene, because I was watching it and it went on for so long and you're kind of like, is this going to happen? Because that's kind of weird if that happens in this movie, because the rest of it is like, not like playful, but like not that hardcore. And you're like, what the fuck? And then like you get the reveal later, like someone comes to check on the girl and she's just sleeping in the bed. But you're kind of like, so where did the pedophile go? Like I was legitimately confused. I was like, what happened here? It's like, did he leave? Or did he like, I don't know. That's the only knock I have on this thing. So they're in the insane asylum. There's a blackout and then they go target the new psychiatrist. But I just liked the feel of this movie. It was it's an 80s movie. I like the way it was shot and the way things play out. You get some like there's some good like gore violence in this. You have the killer who gets nosebleeds whenever he kills people, and he just kind of shows up randomly like under masks, like gutting people, and then he just like has huge nosebleeds and you're like, ooh, shit. This is directed by Jack Shoulder. Mm-hmm. Director of one of the worst Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but also the director of The Hidden and Wishmaster. Wishmaster 2. Sorry, the prison movie, Evil Never Dies. So I don't know. I actually liked Alone in the Dark. I thought it was good.
Yeah, when I watched it, I mean, I didn't really care for it that much. It just seemed kind of, I didn't scratch any of the itches I was looking for. It didn't look great. It didn't have any like great like cinematography. It kind of just felt kind of boring. Because I actually look back at that period of time. There was quite a few movies where I was looking for a very specific thing in the movies. So maybe watching it now, I'd have a different reaction to it. But
one thing to keep in mind, I would say, is I'm watching this at the back end of Creeptober,
and everything's good.
Like, well, I mean, compared to what I've watched so far, this was kind of like what you were saying. It was a nice like casual watch.
That sounds fine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched a sort of trilogy, my trilogy, I guess, of the month. Are you familiar with All Hallows Eve?
I am familiar, but I've never seen any of them. So why don't you tell me?
Well, there's two, but there's three. It's very confusing. So All Hallows Eve is directed by this guy named Damien Leone. Okay, he made a short film called Terrifier. It's like 20 minutes long, and it's about this Art the Clown. He made it like in 2011, and it's got all the like grindhouse filters you could shake a stick at. But okay, I'll get into that more. I didn't realize that when he made All Hallows Eve, he made a anthology himself. It has 3 short stories, and one of them is the short film he just put into this film. So he just basically sandwiched it into this, because that's the kind of the main thrust of the story he's telling, is this tale of Art the Clown.
Yeah.
So what is this All Hallows Eve? So it starts off with it's got the framing device. These actors, these children, and this woman, Katie McGuire, holy fuck, are they horrible? They are lousy, and that's a consistent,
like, as actors.
To me, they're bad actors, or it's like a consistent thing. Like Damien Leone, he does not know how to work with actors or find good people to work with, because they are so shit. Like it's kind of maddening. Anyway, so the kids come back. It's Halloween night, and of course, what are they watching? Why, something that's public domain, Night of the Living Dead. And the brother and sister, they're whatever bickering, and like this adult friend of their parents is babysitting them while they're out. And they empty out their bag of candy to eat stuff, and they find a VHS tape. An old VHS tape that somebody put in there. They don't know where it came from. And then there's an argument about, hey, we should put it on. And the babysitter's like, well, no, I'm not putting that on. Who the fuck knows what's on it? Like, it could be some weird shit. So no, absolutely not. Let me watch it. Like, okay, fine, because the kids wouldn't drop it, and they're like, fine, let me put it on, and we're going to see what it's about. And so the kids have to turn their back, go to the other part of the room, and she starts watching it, and it's like all like staticky, and then like footage starts to come through, and it's of course that's the idea, is it's kind of feels snuffy, but it's like it's all very slickly shot and not VHS quality at all. Like, it's just like, and they're watching it on an HD TV, and they have a VCR connected to it, and I'm like, that's not how that works at all. Like, these people, look at this like fucking basic ass house. Like, they're not, oh, where's my VHS? It's like, where's some Disney tapes? Is that what we're still watching here with this widescreen TV? It's just, it's so dumb. It's that 80s nostalgia thing. Anywho, so the kids start sitting around with the babysitter, and they start watching these 3 tales off the tape. The first one, it's this girl is like waiting to catch a bus, and she's in a like bus depot by herself, and that's our first glimpse of Art the Clown. Art the Clown has got to be one of the most like interestingly simply designed clown slasher monsters I've seen in a movie in a really long time. I 100%, it's like, that's the only reason that anyone gives a shit about this stuff, because the clown design and the guy who's playing the clown, what's his name?
David Howard Thornton.
Yeah, you know what's weird? He doesn't even get a credit here on All Hallows Eve under cast.
Oh no, wait, that dude's only in. Oh, okay. I was gonna say his only credit is that Terrifier movie.
Interesting.
Well, it's probably the same dude.
It's got to be. It's got to be the same guy. So anyway, there's these really interesting ways that they have him kind of move into spaces, because it's just like, yeah, he's this black and white, weird looking clown. He just walks into a room and he sits there and then he starts staring at you. But then he starts kind of putting on his act, and he's like got fucked up teeth, and he starts doing little clown things, and then they start kind of getting weirder and weirder, and then soon enough he's pulling out a needle and injecting you with stuff, and then you pass out, and then he disappears for the rest of the segment, and now you're in the rape dungeon of Satanist demon shit. It's absolute nonsense.
What kind of dungeon?
Demon-y rape dungeon, where there's just like weird hobos walking around in like, I don't know, industrial basements. Okay. And it's like, that's when it's like, oh, then of course she wakes up and there's two other girls on chains. Oh, there was a girl, she got drug off, and we're just standing around, maybe someone will come rescue us. No, we have to go face it. Okay, let's do that. And then one of the girls gets pulled off into the darkness, and then something happens to them, and they try to fight whatever it is, and it's just like demon shit, and like girl being pinned down, and like Satan comes out, and that's like whatever. It's just like shit. It's like, ugh, don't need any more of that. I think the second one is like this shitty alien story. Like, it's another one where like a woman's alone in her house and she's talking about this weird painting that she covers up when her husband's not around, and then like a flying saucer crashes in her backyard, and then an alien comes out and starts like home invading. And it's just like the most generic.
That sounds cool.
But it's not. It's so generic. There's nothing interesting about it. And it's like another movie about like a girl being drug around. And I'm like, what's up with this? Like, what is this like all this guy's got? Is people. And then, of course, like at the end of this particular story, she pulls off the cloth that's on the painting, and there's a painting of Art the Clown. And that's it.
Of course.
But that's it. It stops. There's nothing. It doesn't go beyond that. And they're like, "Oh, I'm so freaked out by these stories. We can't keep watching these tapes." And then so the two kids, she puts them to bed upstairs, and then she proceeds to watch the third one. And the third one is the Terrifier short film that is on YouTube. You could watch that, and it kind of feels more like what's his name? Planet Terror, Robert Rodriguez style kind of grindhouse thing. But it's like him doing like a contemporary slasher. But so the interesting thing with the Art the Clown character is Art the Clown, there's no mythos. There's no origin of Art the Clown. He's just a murder clown. And his MO is like, he doesn't like pump you up full of air till you blow up like Stitches the Clown. He doesn't have any sort of like ironic twists and stuff like that. No, he just like disfigures you and mutilates you and kills you dead. He has like a thing of just a chain that he just whips you, messes you up with. There's no rhyme or reason to it. He's just unrelenting darkness. And so it ends the way that one ends. And then of course Art comes into the real world, and now the babysitter's dealing with Art, who's like trying to get in. And there's some like interesting gags with that, like as far as like visual kind of ideas with mirrors. And then it ends on this note where you're just like, oh, he just fucking killed the kids. It's just their decapitated heads, because there's no hope when it comes to Art the Clown. So then I appreciate like just like how completely who cares? Let's just do it. So I watched. This is on Amazon Prime. And then I saw All Hallows Eve 2 was on Amazon Prime, and then I watched that, and I see that it has something to do with like a pumpkin face killer, and I'm like, sure, let's try that out. And what it has nothing to do with Damien Leon and Art the Clown. It is just a compilation of 9 short films that they just threw together.
9?
9.
Jeez. Jeez Louise.
Not a winner amongst them. It is the most, like, they're not badly made, but so fucking boring. Like, it sucked. And so, this brings me to Terrifier on Netflix, which is like one of those things that's just like, I've always wondered, like, how bad will this be? Like, what is this thing?
Yeah, and I'm based on the picture.
Yeah, it's like this could go a lot of ways. Yeah, and mostly bad. So I popped this in, and then it starts off. And actually, I almost started watching this before realizing that it seemed like it was a sequel, because they were referencing stuff that I thought was in the All Hallows Eve thing. But it turns out it's actually self-contained, and it is ugly. It is so like I hate the way this movie looks throughout. Like it looks bad. The high contrast, very digital, cheap. The actors all are terrible. All the human stuff, horrible. But when Art the Clown's around, it's just like, oh, something was messed up. Like there's something off about him, and it works really well. There's a scene where these two drunk girls, they're leaving a party, and they're like, "I'm so drunk. I'm going to drive home. Whatever." Like it's like that type of acting.
It's like me.
Yeah, it's like no. This is these girls are playing drunk, and then they're walking along, and they see Art the Clown, and he's like kind of walking around with a garbage bag. And because he's always walking around with a garbage bag. And the other thing Art the Clown likes to do is he likes to smear shit over bathrooms. That's one of his that's one of his MOs. But you never see that part. But you always see him do like the hands thing where he's like, "Hi," and he's got shit all over his hands. It actually reminds me of a Josh Simons comic, which is maybe that's why I'm a sucker for this Art the Clown thing. So there's a scene so you have like all these little tidbits of the character development of Art. So they kind of like, of course, the drunk girl starts like, "Hey, you want to be her boyfriend? Yeah, she can't get laid." It's like so. Ugh. You're like, yeah. Get her, Art. Get her, Terrifier. And then they go get some like greasy pizza because they're drunk. And then Art the Clown comes in and he just sits down with his garbage bag and he just starts staring. He doesn't talk. He never speaks. That's the other thing. He doesn't quip. There's no one-liners. There's no like brevity. There's no, "Oh, it's okay. He's Freddy Krueger. He's making us feel safe." No, he doesn't talk. He's silent. And he just murders you. You don't know when or how, but it's going to happen. That's just that's the world we live in with Art. And it's like that stuff's like awesome. Like when they're just sitting there in the cafe and you're waiting for like whatever's going to happen. He goes to use the bathroom. And then, like, the owner of the pizza place, like, finds out what he's done in the bathroom. He's just like, "Get the fuck out of here." And then the clown's leaving. He does the hands thing. And then you get a scene of, like, the guy making pizzas cleaning up shit off the toilets. It's just, like, this gross for the sake of, ugh. But then the murdering begins. And it's just, people get disfigured, mutilated left and right. I don't know. It's total.
I'm surprised that you like this.
It's a total guilty pleasure. Like I'm telling you, like they're not. I don't even think they're actually that good. But I like Art the Clown that much. I would if I could go buy an Art the Clown costume right now, I would totally go do that and be that for Halloween.
I am so surprised. I'm not even kidding. I find this legitimately surprising because I thought you would have just been like, "Yeah, this is dumb new junk, whatever. Who gives a shit?"
There's something to it. I don't know what it is.
Well, I'm not gonna watch it, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, no,
all the shit smearing is not exactly my brand.
It's such a tiny part, like, and it's kind of like it's like it's you blink and you miss it. I'm just bringing it up because I know it would bother you. So
yeah, I know. I don't know how I'd feel about this Art the Clown. It's maybe one day, but currently
I don't even know how. I don't think this stuff will age very well. But at the moment, it's like I'd like to see it develop into like something else, but I think that would hurt it because you don't want to know more about him. You just like, it's just so simplistic. It's like, yeah, this is a single-minded, like, he murders people horribly in all sorts of different ways, a variety of ways.
It'd be better if he just popped up in other hacksaws.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it'd be better off if he popped up in other horror anthologies just randomly, and you would think of how excited you would be. You'd be like, "Holy shit, it's Art the Clown!"
Yeah, he's here. I know what he's going to do.
Yeah,
they're all going to die.
So maybe you can write the creator and just be like, "Hey, I got an idea, and I want you to follow through." I'm
going to throw out one more here because this was also a creep pick. This is another. This is Sam Sanchez's Dreadnought. The Hong Kong martial art movie that I've seen people generously on Letterboxd refer to as horror adjacent. Bullshit. It's not.
Yeah, okay.
It's fucking not, people. This is not a horror movie. It's a kung fu movie that's got like a serial killer in it. And it's like at the beginning, there's some like stuff where I was like, "Oh shit, people are just getting stabbed like left and right," and then it's totally peters out and then turns into a typical, like, to me, pretty typical martial arts movie. It was okay, but I was a little annoyed that I see this being like tagged as horror. Sam Sanchez, he did refer to it as light horror, but
yes,
I was a little like, come on,
tell him how you really feel,
Sam. Come on, Sam.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, well, I mean, not horror? Then fuck it. We're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
All right. You want me?
Yeah.
I'm going to finish off here for you.
Do it.
You want to hear about gargoyles, Jared?
Yeah, I do want to hear about gargoyles.
Gargoyles is pretty cool.
You're not, okay, good. You're not going to break my heart here?
No. Gargoyles is pretty cool. I think the issues that you brought up are... so you've talked about gargoyles before. I think last Creeptober.
Maybe a couple years ago.
Maybe 2. Actually, because I would have borrowed it last year.
Yeah.
So it would have been the year before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had this movie for a long time, you guys. So I watched Gargoyles. Gargoyles is pretty rad. I have the same problem that you do. I want more gargoyles.
I know.
And I want them to not be in slow motion. Give me more gargoyles at regular ass speed.
Yep.
So I really like the intro to this where it's set up where it's just like, God and the devil fight a lot. And Lucifer is this angel and he created his own kind of army.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers are gargoyles. See, that's the thing. I love this like Catholic infused horror, not because I practice the Catholic religion or anything like that. I'm just saying, I think there's so much more rich history to those kinds of stories. And then you're like, yeah, you're like, this is really infusing some realism into my things here. It's
realism.
Realism. That's right, Jarrett. I don't know. I just think they make better stories in my mind. It's like, this is cool.
Yeah, historical reference. Some literature. Throw it in.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I'm on board with anything like that. So I thought immediately at the intro, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I was like, I like that. And then you get what you described as the biggest piece of shit in the world, which is true. There's this doctor guy, and this guy is like,
I can't believe you recall my comments like this. I don't remember this stuff. You say it, I go, yeah, that sounds like something I'd say.
You wrote a review.
Did I?
That I checked out after I watched the movie. So, yeah, that's what you were saying. Yeah, this guy's a huge piece of shit. It's kind of like if Coffin Joe and Art the Clown were a regular guy in society. This guy's just like leaving people to die. There's like the house burning down and the old man's like just passed out on the floor. The daughter's like, we need to save him. And he's like, there's no hope for him. Let's go. But like he could have very easily moved that guy outside.
He was like such a jerk, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was just doing shit like that. It was just constant. You're like, fuck.
But gargoyle bones?
Gargoyle bones are really cool. The gargoyles themselves, I actually really like their design where it's like kind of reptilian, but like their ankles and legs will be real hairy. And she's like, that's a nice little contrast. It's like half hair, half scales.
Yep.
I also liked the way that they showed them where it was like the gargoyles fuck shit up. And they should. When they get there, they have like a door barricaded. And one gargoyle just knocks that fucking door down and breaks it apart. And he's like, your doors don't stop us. It's like, you fucking idiot. And they just go and they actually just wreck shit. You have the lead gargoyle with his wings. He's riding horses at other times. Gargoyles is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool movie. It's definitely an underseen movie. But you know what? I think in the last few years, these like made for TV movies have been hitting a lot harder with me and you than any of the other stuff we watch. Maybe that's just me.
There's a quality that 70s TV movies really hit that are like so like I miss this era so much, like because there's always like some sort of like unpredictable magic to it. And don't get me wrong, most TV movies are shit, but when it's like there's these ones that slip through, you're like, how did this even get made? Like it's like so much effort was put into making this like TV movie, but like gargoyles. It's like of all things, it's like that's awesome. And then that's obviously there's like the restraints of like why there's not more gargoyle action and like slow motion to pad out the use of the gargoyle costumes to make it seem like there's more of it than there is. But
like
I just love the vibe of it. I love that like out in the middle of nowhere in the dark. Like I mean, I think we can relate to it. Creepsville is surrounded by like this like flat plateau of darkness in the like a lot of the time, and you're exposed, but it has like that vibe of like anything could be found like right over a hill, buried under the ground in that shack,
buried under the ground
off that highway. You're like, what's really going on in that little shack? And it's like maybe they got gargoyle bones in there.
Maybe, you never know, man. And that's what I mean. Like I'm actually really liking these made for TV things, like
because Night of the Scarecrow,
A Taste of Evil by John Moon Moxley. Fuck. Well, even that Stephen King one, Storm of the Century, that was just that was like a 5-hour TV thing, but that thing was really cool too. Yep. And it's like, yeah, these things are awesome. I was just on Letterboxd, and it looks like Letterboxd has Halloween theme now. When you click on the page, the Letterboxd logo drips blood. Just so people out there know that it's probably not going to last much longer than a day. So this is live to Jared and I.
Wow.
Anyways, yeah, Gargoyles is pretty sweet. It's good stuff. So I watched some other movies, Jared.
Okay.
Do you want to hear about The Craft at all?
Briefly.
It's 90s edgy Catholic witch movies.
I saw that at Movie Mill, and it was one of those movies I did not want to see. I was like, oh, it's like a movie for girls. Like, I did not want to see it. And then my friend Mike and I, we went to it because that was like the movie we saw, and we were both like, that was actually pretty okay.
Yeah, it's not bad, man. Like, I see why it's kind of has. I don't like saying cult following, but it's like I can see why people have nostalgic love for it. It's not bad. You got some girls, they're doing witchy stuff. Pretty cool. The one thing it's a 90s movie. It's got its own flaws and holes. One thing that like I'm sure played well at the time, but I don't like now is there's a creepy crawly scene where it's like snakes and bugs and spiders and rats and shit. I always feel really bad when there's all these scenes where there's like tarantulas and fucking pythons and all these snakes, and then you have rats in the mix too. It's like, do you know how scared those rats would be, man? I don't give a shit about snakes and spiders. I don't care about putting those fuckers together because those guys are gross. But like, you put a rat next to like all these snakes and spiders, I'd be like, that sucks. Don't be scaring those guys.
Leave them be.
Leave them be. So anyways, Craft's not bad. Not bad. That was an Andy pick. She actually enjoyed it.
You didn't label it that way though.
Well, I forced her to watch it. She didn't want to watch it. I was like, I think you're going to like this movie. So I made her watch it.
She never saw it before?
No, she never saw The Craft.
What did she think about it?
She thought it was fine. Yeah, she was actually like, she gave that more of a shot than a lot of the other movies I tried watching with her.
Sure.
I showed her the first 5 minutes of Alone in the Dark because I watched it and I was like, yeah, that's cool. So I showed her it and she's like, what is this? What are you showing me? And I was like, God damn it. I was like, you're so hard to pick for. So I was like, I'll give you a 90s like feminist witch movie. I was like, you're going to like this. Yeah. And she did. So it worked out. You want to hear about 3 movies really quickly that all had pretty egregious animal cruelty in them? And my opinion of all 3 were pretty much the same.
Yeah, all 3.
Or no, I don't have to talk about any of them either.
Well, the trilogy of movies that I'm like, why did RJ want to borrow these?
Two Evil Eyes.
That's actually not true. Death Dream is all in me because I wanted confirmation that movie's actually not very good.
It's not. It's not good.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why.
People love that movie.
I'm going to burn through these things real fast. Yeah. Two Evil Eyes, anthology series.
Yeah. Oh,
George A. Romero, Dario Argento.
Not good.
George Romero's story. It's like old creep show comic book stuff. It's like, hey, what if an old man came back to life? And you're like, whatever, who gives a shit? Mm-hmm. Second one, the Argento one, you have Harvey Keitel strangling cats for like an hour, and you're just like, and I know that's even just my hang up, but even so, that was gross. But apart from that, these movies it was just kind of lame. Both of those movies is like, neither of these things need a movie. It's like not even like a Tales of the Crypt episode.
Nope.
Like, you would have been fine without either of these. Two Evil Eyes, not good.
And it's just got like a brand new re-release on Blu-ray too.
Why? Just because of the guys attached to it?
Pretty much.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's not neither of their best works at all. Nope. It's just, no one likes those movies, I don't think.
Yeah. So I think I've made a decision after that. I don't think I'm a Takeshi Mike guy. I like Audition. I think Audition is good. But I don't think I'm on board with Takeshi Miike.
Well, okay. He has a lot of different styles of filmmaking, and I would have never recommended you watch Gozu because it's the nasty side of his movies. And if you're not on board with that, you're not on board with that. And like, but if you could watch like 13 Assassins, like, and you'd be like fine, like you would watch those. No, they're like straight up movies. Like there's no like he doesn't like it's not these like his weird Yakuza movies.
Yeah. So here's the thing about Gozu. I wanted this for two reasons and two reasons alone. Takeshi Mike, because I was like, I like Audition. I'll give him another shot. And the poster, originally, that old poster was just the yellow with like the cow head guy. And it came up on lists all the time. It was like, good horror. And I was like, yeah, that poster's pretty spooky. I had no idea this was horror comedy. I had no idea because I don't look into movies before I watch them. Yeah. And then when I was watching it, I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, what is happening here? And there's like this one too, like the movie starts with a dog getting strangled and like just spiked into the ground and then whipped around on its leash. And I was like, that's in the first 1 minute of this movie.
I don't remember that at all.
It's a guy goes out, he picks a dog and throws it on the ground. It's on a leash. And then he just whips it around in like a circle.
Wow.
And so in the first minute,
you walked into that one.
I was like, not for me. I can tell already.
Yeah.
Then you get like all this weird stuff and like it's fine, but in terms of Japanese horror, I think I like so much other stuff more than this. Yeah. You get that, and then there's even weird scenes where it's like the brother gets reincarnated in a woman, and then yeah, exactly. Like Jared just held up Ringu, any like Junji Ito stuff. I don't know, even Dark Waters. There's so much better. Pulse, so much better J-horror.
Yep.
So the brother gets reincarnated in a woman, and then there's like he's gonna get raped by an older man who puts a ladle in his butt, and there's like a joke. He's like, "Oh man, I almost went without you," and it's like, "Okay, sure, man." And then like. But then the joke later is like he saves her, but then the brother's like, you have to have sex with me now. And like, you're just kind of like, what are we doing? What are we going for here? You know, Jer? He's like, what's the point of this? And then the guy does it. And then the brother's hand grabs his wiener from inside, and then he pulls out his arm, and the guy gets reborn. I'm not a Takeshi Mike guy. I'm fine with that. If you like Takeshi Mike, that's your own. You go for it. Whatever. Not me. And you know what else I'm not a fan of? Dead of Night. 2 movies in a row.
AKA Death Dream.
Death Dream, which is, I looked up Death Dream and all these things Dead of Night came out on Letterboxd. I was like, what the fuck is Dead of Night? Yeah. 2 movies in a row where dogs get spiked to the ground. This one actually kind of looked real. A dude chokes out a dog and then throws it on the lawn. And I was like, what's the point, man? This guy comes back from Nam with PTSD, and he's just like, oh.
But he's supposed to be like, or is he dead?
Or is he dead? And then, yeah, you get this like little play at the end where it's just like, what do you think? Well, not really, but I mean, there's like a turn, but then it's kind of like boring because he goes into zombie mode, and he's just like driving a car. He's like moving around the city. You're like, what is it all for?
It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
I realize. Yeah, it's like, oh man, he came back from the war. He's not the same. It's like, no, I wasn't big into this, and that, like, I think what you said, like, other people seem hot on it.
People love it. Like, I double checked, and I was like, I think I have like the lowest rating for this movie of like my Letterboxd pod. Like, it's like there's a massive clump of like 4 stars, and I was always like, what? Like, what am I missing? Like, I think this movie is not good. This is like Phantasm for me, where I'm like, Phantasm's like just okay. It is not a masterpiece. So I'm glad that you can confirm my bias for me. Thank you, RJ.
No, I like last night you even texted me. You're like, "What are you doing over there?" And I was just like, it was just I'm just trying to watch like all the shit. Every
film you tagged. Animal violence, dog violence, animal cruelty, and like 3 in a row. I just like, oh my god,
yeah. And even on top of that, it's like I said, I can get it outside of that myself now. I can be objective enough. I don't think any of those movies were good. Like not the way I like movies. So yeah, Death Dream, no, this is not a good movie. I don't know why people like it either. From the man who brought us Porky's, no less.
That's why I know what you want. I know you want gargoyles.
Yeah, gargoyles is the shit that I want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's it, right? You're caught
up.
Okay,
I'm done.
Very quickly. I watched another part of the American Horror Project Volume 2 set from Arrow, Dream No Evil. This movie, I had gotten the preview of what I was going to think of this movie because everyone I know on Letterboxd who has watched this so far has been dropping a big 2 stars on it. And I was like, well, maybe I'll be that one who really gets it. And no, this movie's crap. Like, it's not good. It is
not good.
It's just a sluggy 70s movie in the wrong kind of way. About like, it's not even worth talking about. No one should need to watch this. It's like the only reason people are is because it's in that box set. I don't get the value of it. The guy who directed it, he also directed a movie called Grave of the Vampire that looks way cooler. It's got like a weird little baby vampire going on or something. I don't know. I'm more into that than whatever this was offering. It's like it's kind of a psycho type deal where she's a crazy woman and she's killing people and then getting other people like to kill on her behalf. Just nothing.
It's nothing new.
Don't watch. Don't. And it's not even like in any way presented well. The guy who's like the crazy preacher, who's her like fiance's brother, who's putting the moves on her and using her for his revival tent show. He should have been played by Rip Torn. That would have like really saved things, but it's not that type of movie. This is some regional horror filmmaking. But I did watch one of the better, like probably one of the best movies I watched the whole month, and it's like borderline horror. It's this movie called Celia. It's an Australian movie. I've had this DVD for years now. It's also from Scorpion Releasing, and I've just heard people kind of mention it. It actually got brought up a lot more when Babadook came out because was it Jennifer Kent? She's Australian. And people are like, well, if you like that, you should check out Celia from 1989 or whatever it was. And I was always like, Celia. And you look at this and you're like, what is this going to be about? It's like she's this little girl. She's got like war paint on. You're like, is this like a Lord of the Flies type deal? So what this movie is, it's a period piece. It opens up with this like girl. I don't know how old she is. She's like 7 or 8. She goes to like wake up her grandma because she hasn't gotten up yet, and she turns her grandma over, and her grandmother's just dead. And that's
cool.
And it's
I like
just,
that.
and you're just like, oh shit, like that's like how it would be, and like it doesn't overplay it. It's just like, oh yeah, like someone has to find somebody, and that's like the trauma of like finding your grandmother dead, and so it jumps ahead, and it's like she's kind of like disturbed by this, but not like overtly. And then they start reading back at school, reading a fairy tale that I actually just came across. I'm trying to remember the name of the monster in it. It's like it's not like a gollywog, but it's something.
Gollywog?
It's not gollywog. I don't. That gollywog's a different thing, but it's like a Bollywog or something like that. Anyway, so they're reading the stories about this goblin. I had just read this thing because I actually came up in a role-playing game thing I ran a couple months ago, and I was like listening to this story, and I'm like, wait a minute, why do I know this? It's about this like it's like a fairy tale about like an old man, and these like creatures keep trying to break into his house, and this dog keeps barking, and he gets mad at the dog, and so he cuts off his dog's legs, but it's like this fairy tale, and then he keeps chopping his dog up because every night the dog keeps barking, telling him that there's these monsters outside, and then eventually his dog stops barking because he's killed it, and then the goblins come in and take his wife away, and then he puts the dog back together again. In the sanitized version of it, he puts his dog back together again, and then they go get his wife, and everything works out great. But that's like the cleaned up version. But there's these flashes to this girl having these images of like this creepy, goopy hand just like resting its hand on her windowsill. And then she's like really creeped out by it.
How goopy?
Pretty goopy. It's like blue and green. And then there's this fucking scene where like they're reenacting the goblin things like running toward the house, and it's like 5-6 dudes in like full bodies, and they're like running toward the house, and it's so like whoa, like, and I can't believe there's like no screenshots of this like very clearly on like Google. And I'm like, and I was like, I didn't have my iPod with me to take screenshots. I'm like, fuck, this is so cool. But that's like so the horror is not literal. And so the whole thing is, so it's the 50s in Australia, and there's this whole backdrop of kind of like the rabbit-proof fencing stuff. So there's like all this stuff about like Australia had a rabbit problem in like the province of Victoria.
I've heard.
Yeah, and there's the stuff where like they're at the theater and they're watching footage of like just like the wholesale slaughter of rabbits, like upon rabbits, because there's just so many of them. And of course, at the time, rabbits were a very popular pet in Australia. And so she really wants a rabbit. And her dad's like kind of like this like conservative asshole kind of guy. And more about him. New neighbors move in, and they're just like this like really nice seeming family. But then all these little drops of information start coming where you find out it's like, oh, they're part of the Communist Party in like 1950s Australia, which is just like America. So there's just like these things like, oh, the neighbors next door are communists. And then you also find out though that the grandmother who died, she was also a communist. Like, and she was like a full-on member like through the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And her son grew up with it and hates it and doesn't want anything to do with it and does not like his daughter hanging out in her grandmother's room. And so he's like becoming resentful, but he's also attracted to the neighbor's wife, and he seems to be like putting these vibes out of like, hey, I'm going to tell people you're a communist unless you do something for me. And she's like, nope. And of course he starts telling people about it, and then all the kids start turning on like, so the people who moved in, they have like 3 kids, and the and the girl, they all get along and they're having fun, but all the other kids, they start turning on them, start calling them communist, and it's like all this stuff like that. So it's like this kind of coming of age story. And there's this thing like the dad buys her daughter like a rabbit to like, you can't hang out with those Tanner kids anymore, and she's like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm still going to get the rabbit. And then she does. There's like some fucked up shit. I don't know, RJ. This movie might not be RJ proof. There's some things.
I won't even consider it then.
No, but this movie's like really good, and like it's so well made, and it's like stuff where you're like, oh, because there comes a point where the rabbits get rounded up. They all get they get taken to the zoo because you can't have zoos, and the movie has this like political vibe to it of just like how horrible people in power are. And then I won't go much further into it, but I was just like, man, this movie's like great. The director is Anna Stevens, I believe. But yeah, I'm not sure if she's directing anything else. And like I said, I would say is horror tangentially, because of like, it's got those like bollywoggy monster goblin things in moments, but like the horror is like a real horror. And it's just got these really good visuals of like how horrible children are and how horrible adults are. And it's got one of the, I'd say by the end of the movie, you're like, she's a really good mom. She's like, wow, it's an all-time good mom move right there.
I'm not sure if I buy it, but I'm interested.
I see
I'm interested, but I won't watch it.
Yeah, there's things that I think you might be like, oh, but it's really good. I think it's it reminds me of like Spirit of the Beehive, and like what Devil's Backbone wants to be.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. I will mention briefly, I watched Killjoy, just to bring a little bit of Charles Band Full Moon in here, and also keeping up my clown business. This is also a blaxploitation movie, and is absolute crap. Like, it is so bad.
It looks like it.
Yep, and there's like multiples of these. Supposedly they get better as they go, but I've heard that about Puppet Masters as well. So, last thing I'll talk about. This is on Shudder. Hagazusa.
Sounds like a cool name.
It's got a pretty cool title. It's a witchy movie.
Witchy woman?
Witchy. Like the witch. And
the witch?
No, don't say that.
The witch.
Yeah. So I don't know. Have you heard about this movie? Are you familiar with it at all?
Yeah, I have heard of it. It looks cool. I'll watch it one day.
No, you shouldn't watch this movie. Oh,
not an RJ movie.
Not an RJ movie at all.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, not an RJ pick. For the first hour of this, I was like, man, this is pretty awesome. And then I don't know what happens in the last 40 minutes, but it just it becomes unnecessary. And then there's like, it takes some directions that are like pretty twisted. Like pretty like, ugh.
Twisted Sister?
Yeah, like Twisted Sister. We're kind of like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this anymore. And I think that's why this movie's not like on the tip of people's tongues. People aren't just like, oh man, it's like The Witch. And I mean, The Witch has got like grotesquerie, but there's a reason to it, where this just seems to go into like, this is something I read and I'm going to put it into my story. And I think it needs to have no context. It just needs to happen, because this movie really, it's kind of like Nicholas Winding Refn at his worst, when he just like has no context of things he's doing, but it's like he found it interesting. Because this movie's gorgeous. Best looking movie I watched the entire month. I was tweeting out some stills of this as I was watching. Looks awesome. Looks great. I was so stoked watching it because I was like, man, this is so beautiful. I could recommend this just solely on visuals alone. But then, like, it's basically told in 4 acts. You know, it has that stark black drop with some white text, one in, like, you know, Celtic, whatever, Nordic language, and then in regular, like, alphabet, and then underneath the English subtitle comes up, and it's like, shadow, blood, horn, fire, and that's it. Beautiful visuals all the way through, but it's also got some, like, goat romancing of a sort. Not
again.
Not no, not as explicit. Not nowhere near as explicit.
God.
But it's like also
what's
like,
up with you?
What's up with movies?
What's up with movies?
I don't know. So it's got some sensuality with a goat about being alone. And sometimes you're just like, I need something to hug, and yeah. You could just watch it. It's got this, like, the droning ambient sound that everything has now. It's out there. I did like this. Just like the visuals are awesome. Gorgeous cinematography, referencing historical paintings, but the story just doesn't go anywhere. You're like, yeah. You're just like, oh, everything sucks. Like, everything's horrible. And then you die. And not in the good way that I like usually.
Yeah. Well, life sucks and then you die, right?
And then sometimes podcasts come to an end.
Like this one?
Yep.
I didn't think this was ever going to come to an end.
Well, we're right there.
I'm glad you told me not to, because I would have watched Hagamusu or whatever.
Hagazusa?
Hagazusa.
Yeah, well, you watch Beelzebooth.
Beelzebooth? Beelzebooth?
That's a Mexican horror.
It's a real word that's not made up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah. So we got what? By the time this is up, it'll be Halloween. Maybe you've gotten to maybe you finished listening to this episode by the time Halloween has ended.
Ends? Possibly.
Maybe you're that hardcore. I don't know. Congratulations. I will. Congratulations,
you did it.
Shinji. Congratulations.
Woo! Congratulations, Shinji. You did it.
That's
you did it, man.
That's it for a while. Another 6 months.
That's it for this episode of Ghoul School. One of the could possibly be one of the longest in contention.
It won't be. I don't think.
No.
It's typical.
It'll be like top 5.
It's typical. Sadly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Next week we're back on the road. We're watching some Alan Renee's films, Hiroshima Mon Amour, and a real pick me up film, Night and Fog. Oh boy.
No, thank you.
Oh man.
Thank you.
It's coming our way. And we're making that march towards Spine 200.
Are we close?
We are extremely close.
Okay.
We are.
Well, I mean, I'll take your word for it.
5 films away.
That's not bad.
And that's 200.
It's pretty close. All right, Jer.
Okay.
We get it. We got spooky.
We got so spooky.
Yeah. That's it, I guess, for another year.
Yep. And then we'll see what we do in May.
Who knows? Maybe people will have feedback on that.
No, they won't. They'll just take what we give them.
That's true.
Enjoy your lives or unlives.
Be spooky. Go do something spooky if you want.
Eat some candy.
Go do whatever feels right.
Good night.
Woo!